We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. The rock was landed on us.
Oh, I say it again, you've been had. You've been took. You've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray.
We didn't land on Plymouth Rock.
This is
the
what
rock was landed on us.
Oh, I say it again, you've been had. You've been took. You've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok. This is what he does.
We are oppressed. We are exploited. We are downtrodden. We are denied not only civil rights, but even human rights.
In order for you and me to devise some kind of method or strategy,
we didn't land on Plymouth Rock.
Some of the
rock was landed on us.
Repetition of the events
I say it
that
again,
have taken place here
had.
recently.
You've been took.
We have to go to the root. We have to go to the cause. Dealing with the condition itself is not enough. And it is because of our effort toward getting straight to the root that people oftentimes think we're dealing in hate.
People really feel and how fed up we are without that old compromising sweet talk. Stop sweet talking him. Tell him how you feel. Tell him what kind of hell you've been catching, and let him know that if he's not ready to clean his house up, if he's not ready to clean his house up, he shouldn't have a house. It should catch on fire and burn down. So the only way we're going to get some of this oppression and exploitation away from us or aside from us is come together against the common enemy.
We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. The rock was landed on us.
Oh, I say it again, you've been had. You've been took. You've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok. This is what he does.
We are oppressed. We are exploited. We are downtrodden. We are denied not only civil rights, but even human rights.
In order for you and me to devise some kind of method or strategy to offset some of the events or a repetition of the events that have taken place here recently, we have to go to the root. We have to go to the cause. Dealing with the condition itself is not enough. And it is because of our effort toward getting straight to the root that people oftentimes think we're dealing in hate.
People really feel and how fed up we are without that old compromising sweet talk. Stop sweet talking him. Tell him how you feel. Tell him what kind of hell you've been catching, and let him know that if he's not ready to clean his house up, if he's not ready to clean his house up, he shouldn't have a house. It should catch on fire and burn down. So the only way we're going to get some of this oppression and exploitation away from us or aside from us is come together against the common enemy.
We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. The rock was landed on us.
Oh, I say it again, you've been had. You've been took. You've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok. This is what he does.
We are oppressed. We are exploited. We are downtrodden. We are denied not only civil rights, but even human rights.
In order for you and me to devise some kind of method or strategy to offset some of the events or a repetition of the events that have taken place here recently, we have to go to the root. We have to go to the cause. Dealing with the condition itself is not enough. And it is because of our effort toward getting straight to the root that people oftentimes think we're dealing in hate.
People really feel and how fed up we are without that old compromising sweet talk. Stop sweet talking him. Tell him how you feel. Tell him what kind of hell you've been catching, and let him know that if he's not ready to clean his house up, if he's not ready to clean his house up, he shouldn't have a house. It should catch on fire and burn down. So the only way we're going to get some of this oppression and exploitation away from us or aside from us is come together against the common enemy.
We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. The rock was landed on us.
Oh, I say it again, you've been had. You've been took. You've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok. This is what he does.
We are oppressed. We are exploited. We are downtrodden. We are denied not only civil rights, but even human rights.
In order for you and me to devise some kind of method or strategy to offset some of the events or a repetition of the events that have taken place here recently, we have to go to the root. We have to go to the cause. Dealing with the condition itself is not enough. And it is because of our effort toward getting straight to the root that people oftentimes think we're dealing in hate.
People really feel and how fed up we are without that old compromise and sweet talk. Stop sweet talking him. Tell him how you feel. Tell him what kind of hell you've been catching, and let him know that if he's not ready to clean his house up, if he's not ready to clean his house up, he shouldn't have a house. It should catch on fire and burn down. So the only way we're going to get some of this oppression and exploitation away from us or aside from us is come together against the common enemy.
We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. The rock was landed on us.
Oh, I say it again, you've been had. You've been took. You've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok. This is what he does.
We are oppressed. We are exploited. We are downtrodden. We are denied not only civil rights, but even human rights.
In order for you and me to devise some kind of method or strategy to offset some of the events or a repetition of the events that have taken place here recently, we have to go to the root. We have to go to the cause. Dealing with the condition itself is not enough. And it is because of our effort toward getting straight to the root that people oftentimes think we're dealing in hate.
People really feel and how fed up we are without that old compromise and sweet talk. Stop sweet talking him. Tell him how you feel. Tell him what kind of hell you've been catching, and let him know that if he's not ready to clean his house up, if he's not ready to clean his house up, he shouldn't have a house. It should catch on fire and burn down. So the only way we're going to get some of this oppression and exploitation away from us or aside from us is come together against the common enemy.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Alhamdulillah. Hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
We're good.
You little robot-y.
I'm in don't.
Yeah, spotlight. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Welcome back to the R2F show. After long-awaited absence, we are back, alhamdulillah. And we have a nice show planned for you guys. So just to give a quick overview, we're going to do a quick little news, kind of current events, just a little go over some of the events that's happened since our last show. We're also going to do a few segments. One of the segments is we're going to talk about signs that if you're in a cult. We're also going to talk about some fake hadiths, of course, spot the fake hadith. We're going to have a long talk about how about Mubarak Jelani's death, some stuff that was revealed that kind of confirmed a lot of what we've been saying over the last couple of years. We have a special guest. We have Mike Russell, a journalist from Canada, who's going to be joining us and talking about his knowledge of TMOA. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that have happened after Mubarak Jelani has passed away in the cult of TMOA. Hopefully, it can open up the eyes of some of the people, some of the members. And then we're gonna end it off with talking about some of the ayats in the Quran, Surah Al-Kahf, and just some contemplations of the ayats. And then, of course, we're gonna take some questions if anybody has them, and then we're gonna close it out. And just real quick, what we're also gonna do is give some recommendations for things for people to watch. I challenge anybody in TMOA or even outside of TMOA to watch at least 3 cult documentaries, 3 documentaries on cults. And periodically when we have shows, we're going to make some recommendations for you guys. So if you have HBO Max, there's a cult documentary that just came out. It's called Los de Luza or something like that. It's about a Mexican Christian cult group. And one thing you will see, and this is true for all these cult documentaries, is that you'll see striking similarities to what you see in TMOA, like down to the same exact verbiage. That if you didn't know that they were Christian Mexicans, and if there wasn't subtitles, you would think like, oh, these guys are from TMOA. They say that, like, for instance, they talk about their leader's family as being royalty. They refer to his sons as princes. They talk about hearing and obeying, even down to like, the leader enjoyed teenage girls. Like, so go on HBO Max. If you can't find it, you can message me. And it's called the Church of the World documentary. And it goes about some of the survivors talking about their experiences. So right now, then we're going to go, I'm going to turn it over to Amr, who's going to talk about some of the things that's happened since our last show.
All right, one second. Okay, assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shukran Jafar. So we haven't had a show in about 3 months. Our last show was before Thanksgiving, I would say. And a lot of things have been going on, alhamdulillah. As I said in my video with TMOA and Tradition of Islam, we have lives, despite what folks think. Like, people think that this is all we do. We do have things in life to do. And one of those things was we have to think about the show going forward, and also how we're going to be available, because Jaffar's entering a new phase of his life. He's be going for his doctorate, so that's going to be a whole thing he has to go for. Mubarak has things going on too. I have things going on too. So the show will be live just when it's live. After it's live, the show will not be available for you. Yeah. You have to watch it then. They're live. For everyone who wants to see what happened, wants to know what happened, you have to be there live to watch it. After that, the show will be privated. You won't be able to see it. And in the future, we'll upload clips here and there of the show and have things like that. And that's how the show is going to go going forward. I'm not sure when the show will happen, how often it will happen. I can't say that right now for sure. But that is something that people think about doing for a while. And I think it's time for us to implement that, just with how busy our lives are getting and how less available it will be for shows just on a regular basis. Because for a while, like, we've done a show every week for like a year and a half at some point. So that's the show going forward. I'm happy to announce, though, we will have the next R2F event, which we had last year. It would be Eid al-Adha this year, which is the end of June. So this year, inshallah, if you want to attend, we'll have another event. Everyone's welcome, of course. TMOA, not TMOA, Muslims, anyone. There'll be food, fun times, just good vibes, alhamdulillah. And so, that's what we have going on. And while we were away, members of R2F were able to make Umrah, alhamdulillah. They were able to go to Mecca and Medina. As we announced at the first R2F event, we were going to sponsor 2 of our elders to go make Umrah. We paid half their tickets with Uncle Adim and Uncle MJ. Unfortunately, Uncle MJ couldn't attend because of some previous trouble he had with Mubarak Jelani and things that he had to do for him back in the day. They have him on some sort of list where he can't fly, so he's not able to attend Umrah. So unfortunately, Uncle MJ couldn't go, but you know, for those who did go, alhamdulillah, had a good time. We posted photos and videos, and you know, always a good thing to do. And we have here at R2F, right? We don't care like what you're doing. It's not about you being the Jamaat. We want you, if you're gonna do good, we will try to support you. All right. So Team Away announced, hey, listen, we're trying to raise funds to send our elders to Umrah, right? So alhamdulillah, that's a good thing, right? And so R2F, we reached out and we tried to give money, right? We we sent them like $50, $100, and they were like, nah. They refunded our money for them to go to Umrah. Like, so they really did. They really didn't want our money at all. Like, they're really spiteful. And so, inshallah, if someone sees this and you want to go to Umrah, listen, we're willing to help you. It's really a good thing. But TMOA didn't want that for whatever reason. So, that's really sad. And lastly, if you guys have noticed, TMOA, they do respond to things, just not to us. I don't know what we did to them, or maybe the fear we struck in their hearts. But they refused to respond to us. Like, they responded to something that happened in the world, but we've been there next door to them, calling them out, and nothing has been said. So this shows you where the parties are, and that they don't have anything to say. And that's really sad. But that's what's been going on in the time that
well, you know what it is they'll respond to people that they know are not going to respond back to them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's even coming down from Mubarak Jelani himself in his little discourses. He would say, "Write to me, ask me questions, we'll respond," but then never respond to anybody. So, like, yeah, they'll address something that's halfway across the world that none of the people are even going to watch their videos to make it seem like they're important. But the people that are right there in their face, you know, just act like they don't exist. So let's see here. So we also have our favorites, the crowd favorites, Hussein and his brother Mo, alhamdulillah, on the show. So we're doing it up for you guys. I hope you guys can appreciate this. And again, remember that the show, to see the whole entire show, you have to attend the live show. Afterwards, it will be made private, and then inshallah, we will maybe issue some clips of the show. But to see the entire show, you actually have to attend live. So real quick, what we're going to do is have try to talk about some cult characteristics in a way that's a little bit entertaining, hopefully. But as we're trying to not only entertain, we're trying to educate. So really think about some of the things that we are about to say, because it should open up your eyes to some of the things that we were, and some of you still are involved in. And what we call this segment is You Might Be in a Cult If. And we're just kind of gonna go around. I'll start it off. And you might be in a cult if you think your leader's never wrong.
You might be in a cult if you're only allowed to study certain things.
Oh, you're muted.
You're muted, Who's?
All right, you might be in a cult if you really, really love Kool-Aid. Great Kool-Aid.
So, all right, you might be in a cult if you get a directive or order that goes against every fiber of your moral being, ethically, spiritually, religiously, and morally, but you follow it anyway. You're probably in the cult. Your cheeks are probably in the cult.
Probably in a cult. You might be in a cult if you go to a community meeting and they confiscate your phone.
You might be in a cult if you leave the cult, you're demonized.
Listen, I mean, honestly, you might have been in a cult if you was just following Mubarak Jelani. To be honest with you, he probably was in a cult. So
that's
you're
facts.
definitely in a cult.
No, that's 100%. You're probably in the cult. You're probably in the cult if your leadership and them give you directives and them themselves don't do anything except for the polar opposite of it and watch you foolishly follow their directive. You're in a cult.
Absolutely. On a serious note, it's 2023, and I think it's time, for us as Muslims, to just graduate, start going to different levels of our understanding of our Islam, our religion, how we practice it. how we live as Muslims. You know, I think we should be trying to level up, you know. As men, we should be trying to level up. As women, we should be trying to level up. As children, you know, we should be trying to help our children to level up. And it's just certain things in 2023, I'm not dealing with at all. You know, I'm just not going to deal with it. I'm not going to address it. I'm not going to deal with it. I mean, if everyone wants to follow, what's the woman's name? Noor, go ahead. I'm over it. Follow her, do whatever you want, call her milkshaker, whatever you want to call her, Noor, you know, the savior, the Shahada, whatever you want to call her of the century, do it. That's to your own detriment. You know what I'm saying? And we've been sitting here, you know, telling the truth. We've provided proof and evidence. You know, we're not just making stuff up. No one has yet to challenge or try to refute anything that we have said.
Open forum, open platform.
Yeah, no one does this. We've had a few close calls, and you know, to be honest with you, the only reason why I'm not going to name call or name drop is because we still do have to have a certain type of you know, disposition when it comes to handling elders and, you know, Muslims and just human beings in general. And some of the people that I do want to name drop, you know, I'm actually cool with their sons and stuff like that. So I'm not trying to create any type of beef or anything like that. But some of you older brothers, y'all really should be ashamed of yourselves. Like, seriously, you know, y'all should be ashamed. I get so many calls, or, you know, people are always talking to me, yeah, you know, who should, you know what I mean, check. I mean, but y'all all scary, same old situation, and it's really sad. It really is just sad. And at this point, everyone knows what it is, so we don't have to keep on rehashing the same stuff. I mean, if y'all want to go and do whatever y'all want to do it. The world knows that Noor's son is no one special. They know he's not some seven sultan. I mean, we're not even going to even go down that path. No, there's still people.
It's like, at what point does everybody just kind of grow up, like, and be adults? Right. It's really sad because you look at all these people, and you know, like, I mean, I'm in my 40s, and I'm looking at my companions that are still stuck in this thing, and it's like, really? And they're holding on to something, and they're holding on to like this concept, and this concept doesn't give two craps about them, right? It hasn't done doesn't care about them, and literally has done nothing for them.
Literally, factually, on multiple different levels. And if you line that up, I didn't mean to cut you off. If you line that up with Islam, that's completely the polar opposite. In Islam, everything you put forth, you'll get back. You put good forth, you'll get good back. You put bad forth, you'll get bad back in this life or the next. But if it's something that you're giving a lot of energy and stuff, you're getting nothing back, it's basic preschool to me. It's literally preschool. And going on to what you were saying about Noor real quick, because all we hear and been hearing is the fact that she's not the leader. She's just appointed over there. I don't know if she's supposed to be, I'm not going to say that because I'm trying to be respectful, but how is she put in the point of leadership and you follow her, but you're saying she's not your leader? Exactly. So if she's not your leader, why are you following? Are you following a follower? What is it? It doesn't make sense. But everything you believe is based off of contradictions. So, and what's another contradiction?
Yeah. Well, I want one person, and we've heard it so many times. I want one of these people that say she's not my leader, right? Go tell her that. Yeah. Go tell her you're not my leader. And I bet you none of those people that are saying that, they will never say it.
Of course they're not, because they know, just like we know, exactly what's going to happen.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, the reality is that he is their leader. And this goes back all the way to when the directive first came down, when they were trying to put her in a position of power. And then the Jamaat community, the Jamaat community split up because the older brothers was like, no, she's not my mom, blah, 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 blah. My Abu was one of them. My Abu was one of the men, along with quite a few of his companions. They was like, I ain't gonna use that language, but they were just like, you know, absolutely not. And things started happening. That was back when my father got kicked out and all of this type of stuff, you know, and then they try to frame it and spin it like, oh, you didn't come to a meeting. No, they was butthurt and mad that some of the older brothers did not try to sign that little paper where they was going to have to take bayat
To a woman, yeah.
Mubarak Galani's wife. So,
Yeah, no, like it's really a thing of like Nor wears the pants for every man in the Jamaat. Like all of the men in the Jamaat are her betas at this point because because respectfully, of course, like you guys know she's in charge. You can use whatever like semantics you want to use. Technically, she's no. If she is temporarily in place before Noor comes around, that means that right now she's in charge. She could be the substitute teacher for a while. Right now, she's teaching y'all, and from what we see from the outside looking in, you guys are being emasculated.
yeah,
She controls everything you guys do. You guys are terrified of her for the most part. And she has y'all hooked, and for sure she has your wives hooked because you guys love her. You guys are like, oh my god, girl boss, queen power, all this stuff.
Oh yeah.
So, like y'all,
please.
Even if you
Oh my
look at
God.
like if you go into any situation, right, and you look at okay, how do we identify the leader, right? There's different ways you can become leader. You can get leadership through like position, like you're appointed the leader, right? You got a promotion or whatever. She has that. Mubarak Jalani appointed her the leader. So that's one aspect. Then the other aspect is someone can have like the appointed power, but not actually have the power, right? Like you go in a room and you see like, okay, this person's the president, but clearly this person sitting over here is running the show because they're listening to everything that they're saying. So when y'all walk into a room, who's the one giving all the commands? Who's the one telling everybody what to do? Who's the one running the meetings? It's Noor. So she not only has the appointed power, she has the actual power of bossing everybody around. So anybody that's inside TMOA, you are recognizing and accepting, whether you want to verbally accept it or not, that she is your leader. By all intents and means and purposes, she's your leader. So when we go back to the hadith of saying anybody that appoints a leader and all that, a woman as a leader, you fall into that category. And now some people saying she's a spiritual leader or whatever you want to call it.
The reality is that everyone has acquiesced to this whole idea or, narrative going around. But when they're challenged, they immediately revert back to try to take a strong stance. She's not my mom. She's not my this. But you are following the directives. You are submitting to them. You are in submission to her commands, her directives. This is the reality of the situation. I mean, there's just facts that we have to just lay out. I mean, alhamdulillah, you know what I mean? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put, a few of us in position to be able to try to defend the deen, the honor of the deen. And alhamdulillah, I mean, a couple of my close companions, of course I have to keep their names confidential. They told me directly, one of them told me directly a couple of days ago, he's not paying them another dime. So I know he's like that. He's like, I'm not paying them another cent. And this is somebody who was heavily involved and was even collecting percentage from people. So again, the playbook is out. The playbook is out. Everyone knows really what's going on. We know that we have been hurting their pockets. And that's the meat and potatoes of the whole situation. Hurt the pockets, you know what I mean? And then watch them squabble. As we know, they're fighting for the inheritance.
We're going to get into that. We're going to get into that.
It's getting ugly.
It's actually a good transition. Is that so? In the midst of this, they're fighting of inheritance. Is that
had a few technical difficulties, but I'm here. Alhamdulillah.
Portugal is here.
Your R2F hat?
Yeah.
All right. Only love.
But I know I missed the segment, but I'll just give mine. You might be in a cult if you're afraid to tell people who your leader is. Like if you're afraid to tell people, unequivocally, unabashedly, proudly who your leader is. I mean, are any of these men going to go in a group and be like, my leader and spiritual guide is Noor, the ex-wife, halalified lady of our dead former sixth Sultan Mubarak Jalani. They will never go in a group of respectable Muslims and say that out loud. Right. I remember just a story. My not even my dad told me. I actually heard this from the brother's mouth himself. I would say his name, but it's not really important. You probably could attach this to quite a few people, but
Yeah.
the brother said he went to a masjid, just a normal, masjid is a general population, and he said he had some Sufi books like the Dalal Khairat or one of those books or whatever he was about to pull out and read. He said he was sitting, he pulled it out, and he looked around and saw, the brothers that were sitting around kind of like either waiting for Salah or after Salah or whatever, just talking or whatever. And then he himself decided to put it away. Say, you know what? I'm not even going to do it. If you're afraid to do your everyday ibadah or whatever it is that's part of your little cult or whatever, if you're afraid to do that, around the Muslims, one of the two might not be a Muslim, because the Muslims do one thing and the people who are something else do something else. So if it's part of Islam, if it's Islamic, then there should be no shyness or no secrecy, no hiding when it comes to how you practice, and most importantly, who's your leader. We can say unequivocally our leader is Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and we follow Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and those the Quran and the Sunnah, and those people who are of the Quran and the Sunnah. That's it. So I mean, I don't know why that's so hard, but if you ask one, you'll get more stuttering than anything when they ask them right now today, who's your leader? Well, you got to give a long speech about who is eventually going to be the leader.
Yeah, they act like they're in this long transition phase, which they've been in for a long time, and then they don't give you a timeline as to when that transition phase is supposed to end.
He's ready, man.
Yeah, it's like
after he gets on vacation.
It's an infinite loop. It's an infinite loop.
When everybody that knows this knows, okay, right? If the coach gets fired, who takes place? The interim. But they're still the coach. So there has to be either a leader or an interim leader. And if you actually have an interim, like an interim leader, someone who's not actually going to be the leader, but they're in place for now, that means the person who's actually making the decision hasn't decided yet. That's one way that interim is there. You're just a placeholder. Hold up. It's not going to be you. You don't qualify yet in my eyes. You're not at the level where I want to say you're the leader. You're just a placeholder until the one I actually want, or a group of people I'm going to pick from this group or something like that. So even if you got to stutter and sputter and be like, well, right now we got an interim, you literally are following someone whoever it was that made the decision, don't even think they should be, because they're not even the leader, that are interim. You can put a chair as the interim. You can put a stuffed animal as an interim, because they're not going to be there. It's temporary. So you really got to think about that. If you can't stand up and say, this is my leader, you're probably in a cult.
Yep. Very well
said. And it's interesting. So let's look at how we actually got here. So we've been making videos for several years now, even before Mubarak Jelani passed away. And we keep saying it. We wish we had all the stuff that we lost on our old channel, so that we could like play them back and act like we're like Nostradamus and just made all these predictions that came true. Because literally everything we've been saying that was going to happen with TMOA, the leaders, Jelani's family, has literally just played out in front of our eyes. Even going back to Fatima Jelani and her camp, which is her husband Sarmad, who's the video editor, and you have her brother Sultan, who's kind of like being behind the scenes, and then you have Mudassa. They're now releasing videos. And the most shocking one, they keep calling everything a documentary, but everybody should know they released a video about behind the scenes of how Mubarak Jelani actually died. And a lot of stuff was revealed. And the long and short of it is they killed their own Murshid. They literally killed their own sheikh with their medical negligence, malpractice, ignorance, whatever you want to call it. They killed their own Murshid, and which even is another slap in the face, they didn't even have the nerve to tell you guys about it. They literally just act like he passed away, everything was cool, and went about business. Let's build him, even though we just killed him, let's build him a shrine, not talk about it. But now, years later, because they're fighting over this money, like Hussein had mentioned, now stuff's coming out that they the sheikh, let's talk about the first thing that we talked about, or that needs to be brought up, is while he was alive, Mubarak Jilani wrote or had written a whole article talking about how COVID is the wrath of Allah. Anybody that gets COVID is a non-Muslim, non-believer. It's a wrath because they're committing shirk and don't believe in the oneness of Allah. And then what do we find out in their little video? That Mubarak Jilani himself had COVID and most likely died from COVID and their lack of attending to it correctly. So you have a sheikh here that's supposed to be, direct communication with Allah, getting directives from Allah and Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and he issues out a public statement to the world saying COVID is the wrath of Allah, and the cure for COVID is believing in the oneness of Allah. He makes this statement. Not only that, he pushes this miracle cure that if you find hair in your Holy Quran, put it in water and drink it, and this will protect you from getting COVID. So you have the whole community for all this time, to this day probably. They were even serving it at weddings, putting hair in water and serving water as if it's going to protect them from COVID, right? And then even before
they were calling it Mubarak water.
Yep,
Mubarak water.
Sorry, it wasn't even
cringe. That is so cringe.
It wasn't
so
even
cringe.
his hair. Like you guys were using your own hair.
Everybody was getting different hair. Every single person was drinking a different type of Kool-Aid water. Everybody had a different type of water.
You had that one guy that made a post that I found a hair every day.
Different kind of hairs.
Yeah, red hair. But the thing is Mubarak, one of Mubarak Jilani's wives, who was messaging me, trying to debate me, was talking about how they had a whole 5-gallon container in her house that they all would drink from every single day to protect themselves from COVID. Meanwhile, to this day, Mubarak Jilani contracted COVID, died, and y'all are still drinking hair water.
But clearly it didn't work.
Let me emphasize this one more time, because it's so basic. Their leader, Mubarak Jilani, said that COVID is a wrath from Allah for disbelievers and this is that. And then he himself contracted it, which means he, by default, in his own
logic,
documented proof out of his own lips, he is either a disbeliever, doesn't believe in the oneness of Allah, or it's just flat out on some stuff because he contracted it. That's not us saying that. That is more than enough proof in and of itself just now that this whole thing is just a facade. The whole thing. And then, like you said, Bart, Jaffer, they covered it up. The only reason we know is because his daughter and son came out and explained it to y'all. The fact that because y'all were saying it in the messages that y'all were going to keep it on the low. Once again, it's proof. We're not just saying this stuff. It's proof out there. They didn't
Let's say the names too. Ibrahim.
Oh no!
Ibrahim put in there. Ibrahim put right in the message.
Right in there. Clearly,
this is a majlis. Do not tell anybody that he may or may not have had COVID.
Yeah.
Right. Why would you not want to tell? Yeah, because they don't want y'all to know the truth. They don't want y'all to know the truth. Y'all are just sitting there gobbling up whatever they give y'all. Right there is in and of itself that y'all need to haul tail and run, but y'all aren't going to do it.
So let's think about this. You know what I wonder?
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's break it down to the base level. I like to get down to the nitty gritty.
Get them. The nitty gritty. Get them.
Why? Okay, even if you say, I believe in Mubarak water, I believe in Jilani, I believe in his guidance, and he told me to drink this hair water. Okay, so if the hair water, which like in their house, let me backtrack for 1 second and make sure that I got my understanding correctly. Did they have this hair water that they were drinking, this 5-gallon bucket or whatever they were doing? Was this hair water made with Jilani's hair, right? Or am I mistaken about that?
It was made with whatever hair they allegedly found in their Quran.
So there was no telling whose hair it was.
They claimed it was supposed to be
sheep hair.
Wait.
So okay, so I thought that they had made the hair with like his water, because I heard before like people had found his hair in a comb or whatever and drank it and stuff. So okay, but so
allegedly supposed to be Rasul Sallallahu hair.
Yeah,
that's what they say.
Yeah, that's what it was supposed to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
So everybody around the world, or not even around the world, so we got people around the world that were doing that. Everybody that was doing it was getting different colored hairs curly hairs, perm hairs,
For
straight
textures.
hairs.
Yes.
Literally every type of,
4C.
I've seen multiple different ones. I told you,
I mean,
it
is
just
it?
doesn't make
Hold
sense.
up, guys. Is it safe to say maybe it could have possibly been some animals here, like
That's
some
what I was saying. Might have been some horsehair. It could
chicken
be
hair,
any type
something
of
like
hair.
this?
Could have been a weave, could have been
Yeah.
anything, man. You don't know. But the thing is this. So I thought that that they were using like his actual hair, like trying to get his hair and doing it like that. But so I will stand down on that particular thing. But if some of these people were either using his actual hair or maybe if you think that if you had his actual hair, then that would be some real powerful Mubarak water, then ponder this for a second. He was supposed to be, the sixth sultan, I don't even want to go into what that belief actually is, but he's supposed to be something really special.
Why didn't he just drink his own water?
Yeah, he did exactly that. Yeah,
Not drinking water. Why
that's
just not get it in the first place?
you got to get a hair to get some of what he supposedly had in his whole body. I mean, so the hair was so that you could get some of that blessing, right? He allegedly is supposed to like be that blessing. He's supposed to be a manifestation of that blessing. Yet he got COVID and croaked. I mean, I don't
technically, for all of us who have not gotten COVID,
never have.
Does that make us like higher than the sixth sultan?
I mean,
like, are we more blessed?
I think.
Should they now follow us?
I'm not shirking, so probably, yeah.
I mean, listen. Every once in a while, I do sometimes when I'm eating and stuff, or maybe sometimes a hair from my beard or mustache or something winds up, and I do wind up either like gagging on it or something. So I don't know. Maybe I've swallowed one or two. I mean, I don't.
But you know what gets me out of the whole thing, and it really because whatever Mubarak Jelani was on, he was on, right? He's gone now. But the thing that really upsets me, we talked about it before, is that he couldn't have done any of this stuff without these people that are in the middle. These people that they've shown signs that they know this is full of crap. Because for Ibrahim, his mother-in-law or whatever, Shura Council, for her to put in that room, and then everybody in the room not even say anything and be cool with it. Yeah. Everybody in there is complicit, and whether they want to recognize it or not, they're saying, we know this is full of crap. Because when you think you're about the truth, right? Imagine us Muslims, like reading the ayat in the Quran and be like, don't tell nobody about that ayat. Don't tell anybody about it, right? Don't tell anybody that the Quran may or may not have this ayat, right? You think your sheikh is the truth, right? He's the sixth sultan, everything he teaches the truth, communicates directly with Allah and all this, but then you go on your little behind the scenes chat and say, make sure you don't tell anybody he got COVID. And like you said, the reason you're telling people that is because you know it's going to basically lift the veils up for some people. Like, wait, our sheikh got COVID? He's been telling people that it's the wrath of Allah because these guys are these are evil people facilitating this fraud, and they're keeping it going to this day. Yeah. And even we're talking about Noor. Look at Noor. Like, look what's happened after she's taken control, right? Look at the household of Mubarak Jelani while he was alive. How many vacations did they go on? No idea. Didn't see no pictures. How many trips did they go to Trinidad? How many houses did he build Noor's father? How many of these different things that you see blatantly in your face that's happening now with the people that he left behind that they're doing with your money? This is your new leadership. And like I said, when you go back and you watch these cult documentaries, it's like clockwork. The second generation leadership is always worse than the one before it. Yep. They always take it a step farther. And that HBO documentary, the one leader, he was messing with young girls, but keeping it kind of private. Then the son came, was like, nah, we taking it up a notch. We messing with girls, boys, mothers, sisters, cousins, everything. And this is what happens. And you're going to look, you see it happening right now with TMOA.
Yeah, they have to. But when they take it up a notch is when it starts getting so radical, it starts exposing themselves. Going back to what y'all saying about the money, if you can't trust somebody with your money, then you automatically can't trust them with a plethora of other things. Automatically, because if they're untrustworthy with your money, which is one of the most important things, that means they're automatically into some other stuff, and there's no telling. So you have the people that are still in it, and then they're like, okay, I'm not giving them another dime because I don't trust them with my money, but I'm going to follow and listen to everything else they're saying. Those things don't go hand in hand. They're actually they're contrary to one another. If you don't trust this person with your money, but you're going to trust him with all this other, no, he's not a trustworthy person, period.
That's actually a really good point, Mo, because, you know, just talking to a couple of my companions and the way they communicated to me, it was kind of like unspoken language. Like I didn't need to push them any further because they already told me.
Yeah, it's like,
you know, me, they're like, I'm talking about this brother was like, Lord bless his
They use the money angle because a lot of people can relate to that.
Another cent.
Yeah, they use the money angle, but they really aren't. Some of them aren't with it at all, but they just use the money angle because people aren't going to really question it because it's like, are you playing with my money type of thing? They ain't going to just outright say, no, I'm not with none of that foolishness and none of that.
Well, like now, the messages we've seen over the years about like, give your last. It doesn't matter if your electricity's getting cut off. Make sure you do this. Send your money here. Travel here.
Who says that? Who does that? Like, you got to think about it. You're my boy. You're my friend, my companion, whatever. And you're asking me for money, telling me it doesn't matter what you got going on. You need to give. That is not even a friend. Like, just a regular friend ain't going to operate like that. Then you're letting somebody that's an authority above you treat you like that. You're literally their ragdoll. Y'all can't see it. I don't understand why y'all can't see it.
Meanwhile, they're like in islands sipping Mai Tais and virgin daiquiris and eating good food. Like, what's the point?
Like if you think about it, like, listen, people in Jamaat, y'all know y'all don't believe them. All right. How do I know this, right? Because we had the whole thing about bark water, right? And to pick back off what Dr. said earlier, I was at a wedding, my nephew's wedding, Zaki. This was like a year and a half ago, right? This is after the whole Mubarak water stuff, right? Okay. The amount of people I saw in there with a mask on. So listen, if y'all Negroes believed that the Mubarak water was the cure for COVID and you guys would be safe, right? Why are you in a mask? Why are you vaccinated? Like, so clearly, y'all know this is BS. Y'all know it's BS because every time something happens, you guys like, I mean, sure, like
they would use the Murph, tie your camel. You got to tie your camel. That's why we got masks on.
Okay, yes. That would make sense, Seuss, if you guys didn't bloviate about all the things that Marjolani can do, all the cures he has, right? And the irony of Marjolani's like passing is he spent his entire team away life, right, as this like doctor, right? This doctor who had all these prescriptions to cure all these illnesses, and he knew all this stuff, and he couldn't cure his own illness.
Not only that makes I see what you're saying, but that would even make sense because even when the vaccinations were coming out, there were in some restaurants and businesses when the vaccinated people came in, they'll tell you vaccinated people don't have to wear masks, literally. So the people that are worried about it more than y'all were even letting people that are vaccinated not do it because they know their vaccine don't work, but they're still letting you not wear a mask. You see what I'm saying? So
I would love to like pose this question to one of the hardcore Jamaadis or whatever, if there even still is one. I mean, there's a few fake hardcore, but I bet you there's not even really anybody who's really like straight up. They probably like, all right, I know it's BS, but I'm just trying to get mine now. They just I'm trying to get there.
It's my turn, spotlight.
I would like to ask one. Okay, right? Instead of just opening up a random book and seeing if you can find a dusty hair to make some Mubarak water with, would you take a hair of your, Murshid, Jilani, or Galani? I'm gonna start saying it like that, like
that's their name. That's
he don't deserve the Jilani.
Pronouncing it, so there's no disrespect. I'm assuming we were saying it wrong.
Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani, we'll give him the G, but they get the Galani John. So Mubarak Galani. Yeah, Galani. So seriously, would you take a Galani hair, right, as your Mubarak water? So instead of just finding a random hair, someone say, yo, Abuji's hair is right here. Here, take it. Mix your Galani water. Okay. So I would like to ask them this question. If yes, okay, why? And if no, why? I mean, I don't want to give them the answer. I want to see if we can ask them this question, and maybe on the next show or whenever one of them brave enough to say, yeah, I'll take it right now. Then we'll break down why they're well, let me not say whether they're. Let's just ask the question. I would like to know before I answer it. So maybe on one of the future shows, we'll get the answer.
Well, I got a question for y'all, and everybody should have seen that that last documentary video that they had. And what do y'all think? Like, because one of the things that I question is, I mean, we know why it's coming out, and like people are like, oh, you know, they're upset because these people mishandled their father and they killed their father by malpractice and this and that. But to me, it's like, why are you guys saying something now and didn't say anything within the last year or two that this happened? Like, why now? Because to me, it's like, okay, if someone killed my father, like, I'm pulling out all the stops. I'm calling, if I live in Pakistan, I'm flying to America. I'm showing up at your job. I'm asking your supervisor. I'm writing letters to nursing boards, doctor boards, medical, whatever. Like, I'm getting people fired. They're losing their careers. They're going to be working at McDonald's, right? And to me, it was like very clear because you see different posts. Like one of the posts that they put up was like, oh, we got new lawyers now. And it's the lawyer of like the ex-president of Pakistan or whatever. To me, that's all it was showing me is that y'all are getting, excuse my language, you're getting your asses handed to y'all in court. Noor is killing y'all because people don't change lawyers when they're winning, right?
100%.
They change lawyers like, okay, we're losing. We need somebody else. So y'all are losing. And now you're like, okay, let's start revealing some of the secrets that we think is going to hurt Noor, which is fine. But to me, it's like, why don't you guys check your intentions a little bit? And if you really cared about them killing your father, we would have been hearing about this
immediately
a week after he died. You wouldn't have been tying turbans around her son's head. Like,
I'm not gonna question whether or not they love their father or not. I'm sure every person, you know, loves their blood, but I know they love money more than their father because it's proven. They've proven that with their actions. You know, what they say, talk is cheap, you know, so they can say whatever they want to do, but their actions have just proved the point. They never mentioned their father in defense of him or even support. Every time, Fatima Gilani, Galani, Mudassir Gilani, what's the other guy, Sultan Galani, they mention their father when they're trying to get some power, some leadership, some money. When Noor is kicking their behind, all of a sudden they're having dreams about their dad. They you know, they're invoking their dad. They're saying I'm my dad's son. You know, I was there holding his hand. You know, all these types of things. They're getting magical, you know, boosts and stuff from their dad as soon as there's money on the line. Tell me one time you have heard them mention their father. Just, you know, he was a great guy and he taught us a lot. Just full stop. Nothing. When the context wasn't, I should be the leader. I should have the money. Our inheritance is stolen. Otherwise, if Noor would have split the money with them, like she did with Shafat, allegedly, if she would have split the money with him, you would have never heard a peep. Or if she would have been like, you know what, I got money, I'm just leaving. I don't even want to be the leader. I'm not the leader. One of y'all take over. They would have just been running with it. And the only time they would have mentioned their father is when they need somebody to straighten up. Hey, you know what? I'm Galani's son. You know. Other than that, they don't mention him. So for Mudassir, he's all like, you know, I'm going to defend my dad. You're not. The only time you're going to mention your dad, you're going to mention your dad as a Trojan horse for you to get to where you want to go. You're riding on your daddy's coattails to try to get some money, some position, or try to beat Noor.
Ultimately, it's about leverage. You know, it's about leverage, and they're trying to jockey and position themselves. You made a good point, Jaffer, because all of this stuff that was going on beforehand, no one was really mentioning a syllable about it. In fact, they were trying to portray the situation like he had this noble, big-time death and all this other stuff. So if you guys knew and understood what was going on, and if y'all were sincere indeed, y'all would have been disclosed this information, not try to use it as some type of leverage power pack. you know what I mean, to make
100%.
Noor look bad or whatever. Apparently y'all getting cooked in court.
They getting absolutely smoked too. And just to pay back up on who said, like, I can listen. If my father passes away, I'm not going on a media tour to make a documentary about posting
on site.
Yeah, it's not going to be.
Sure you're within view.
1.5 years later, premiering now on my YouTube channel live, the voice by FJ, how my father died. You guys can all see it. It's like, no, it's not like so.
And
not only that, I'm reporting it to the authorities immediately.
And to your point, I mean, let's keep it real. We never even heard of some of these. We've never even heard of some of these fake Galanis.
They just spawned in.
Heard of none of these people until, you know, their father passed away. Then we started hearing about the Fatimas. No disrespect, I'm sure she was around or whatever, but she wasn't
known to us. She wasn't known to Jamaat.
She wasn't in this light, nor was the what's the boy's name?
Shafat. You know what I mean? It's like they went around it all or important. The only Jelani that I respect is Ali Jelani. That's like Shadi's like second oldest son. This man is nowhere to be seen because he left and he left forever. Like all of y'all coming out of what works like, oh well, our father's dead now, money time. All like y'all know there's money to be had here. That's why every time something happens, trying to discredit Noor, trying to paint her in this bad light. Sure, Noor is a terrible person, great, but she's made it abundantly clear. She's giving y'all zero money. No,
Did you see in that video how like you could always tell something's corrupt when stuff gets closer and closer to like the mafia, like you're watching a mafia movie.
Yeah.
And in that video, like has this meeting with the family, right? She has the meeting, which clearly like she's also in charge of the family, right? Has this meeting and basically is like, okay, what are we gonna do with the money? What do y'all want to do
together?
What do you want? How much do you want? Right? It's not going to be a free-for-all, right? Where Islamically, and this is how, like, even going back to Mubarak Jelani, how he wasn't this great Murshid sheikh that follows the Quran and Sunnah. Islamically, there should have been no discussion, really. It should have been clearly in a will and say, we're going to follow the Quran and Sunnah.
Once again,
that's it.
That's it. This whole thing could have been avoided if Mubarak Jelani followed whole Quran and Sunnah, made the will, had it in its respectful place. Everybody would have had access to it, and it would have been done. But once again, I mean, it's
ample time.
He had the time, he had the money, the power. So it's inexcusable. You feel what I'm saying? It's inexcusable for him not to have had things set up, and that even ties into the leadership. You had enough time to make sure that the leadership was going to be in place after you made your trip to Allah, back onto the other side.
And Fafa said, she said many times before it came out, she was like, there's no way my father would not follow the Sharia, the Quran and Sunnah, when leading a will. Noor's lying. And we said on this show, directly after that video, listen, Fafa, we understand you love your father. Clearly, you do not know him. We said that the will will be totally fraudulent. It'll probably just be all to Noor, right? And what did she say that next video she had out? Yeah, so the will was all to her. I don't know what happened. So your father, like as who said, if they just followed the Quran and Sunnah, simple. This would have all been taken care of. It would have been easy to do. Bam, bam. Okay, I get 10% to her, 10% to her, 10% to her. No, it goes all to Noor. And so like she saw your Baba's love and her money, and his money. So tough.
So we have a special guest. We have our good friend, Mike Russell. Some of you guys see him in the comments, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys have read some of his articles in MMA Sports. And but I'll let him tell you guys about himself. Welcome to the show, Mike. So let our viewers know who you are and how you're connected to all this.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for having me, guys. It's been a long time talking with a lot of you, and kind of both of us have been educating each other, I think, a lot on this group. So it's been a very beneficial relationship, and I guess a pairing that we've had. But I started as a mixed martial arts reporter approximately 16 years ago, almost 17 years ago. I've written for the Fight Network I started out with. I moved on to UFC.com. I've written for FoxSports.com. I've written for YahooSports.com. And then I went out on my own and started my own website because I found that there was, like you're probably finding, a lot of people don't want to tell some stories for unknown reasons. They kind of get stifled. And during my my first story I did on a corrupt commission in Edmonton, Alberta. And I followed them along until eventually I was basically, I put a story out that said that all commissions need to look at this commission because I felt someone was going to die under their unwatchful eye, because they'd hired a commissioner that was working for the city that was unqualified for the job. So I always, I like to put it into like comparison terms. And I think he was, he was hired to run an airport. And he'd never seen a plane land because he'd never watched an MMA match before. He'd never really, really knew the rules of what he was doing. He was like a bureaucrat from Ottawa. So they brought him in because he was a fundraiser for some of the different things that they were doing in the city, and they didn't want to see him go. So they took a very competent, very uncorrupt person with no real conflicts of interest, and they made up a story to have him fired so that he could take power. And it was like, I kept comparing it to House of Cards because like everything, it's politically based. So he knew people that could get people out of power, and they were planting evidence on people. And I got involved just kind of benignly because I was asking about some rules that this commission was breaking. And all of a sudden he starts in this long-winded interview, starts telling me other stuff that like, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe like he's admitting to all these other, perpetual crime type things, I was very, shocked by it. But the end game was that somebody did end up dying. So a UFC fighter named Tim Hague ended up dying as a result of them not registering some of his medical suspensions that he'd incurred from knockouts that he was incurring as a fighter. So there's his family. I actually have been working with to try to, they've got a lawsuit going against the city of Edmonton for $5 million. So a wrongful death suit. Wow. So, I like you, I think, I've been talking to James Jafar, as everybody, he's probably been relaying some of the things we've been discussing. There's so many parallels between how your story is being treated and how some of these other stories are being treated, and how, people in power are able to manipulate the system. So that has been kind of my focus since I went independent, was that I wanted to, kind of expose corruption, kind of stop it. I've had, pretty good success. I had an ex-member of TMOA, aka Jamaat al-Fukra, as you mostly know. Ali Abdelaziz was where I kind of, we crossed paths and intersected. And I reached out to James. I think was it before the pandemic, James, or during the pandemic?
That was before the pandemic, yeah.
And we talk about everything, it'll be like a Sunday and we'll just send a funny joke and stuff. But the one thing that we've talked about throughout all of this was that one of the reasons why this story has been stifled so much is because some of the people that have been trying to, quote unquote, expose different things are a little bit too willing to not fact check things and willing to lump everybody in together. So when we speak about TMOA or MOTA or any of the other iterations that they had, it's very important, I think, because Islamophobia is, as we know, as bad as it's ever been post 9/11. People like to lump people in just because of certain beliefs that they have, that, you're as bad as the next person, when they don't realize that it's un-Islamic, the acts that the people are doing. So James has been a really great research, or really great resource for me, because I check in on him sometimes with some things, and I'll say, I've got a question about this. And as a scholar himself that's, learning and teaching and helping people understand what true Islam is, we kind of bump ideas back and forth, and like some of the stuff he'll bring up on the show sometimes, and some of the things that I'll run by people and say, no, you're looking at it wrong, because that's what it's about. But the people that are trying to stop these ideas from being spread and talked about are the same people that are the ones that we're talking about. So it's not, but if you can weather that storm of people where, I've had people attack my children, they've found them online and they've gone through and made threats or, shared photos and other things. And what they're trying to do is scare you off telling the truth. And that you're doing something right when you've got people going to that extreme. It's not like we're just brushing the story. So when I was just writing about who I thought was going to win a fight, who I thought won a fight, who I thought, like just delving on the surface, was when I never really got any pushback, but it's when you're actually digging deeper along the surface and it scratches some people the wrong way. So that's where I met James. I actually worked for a while. I can't talk about it because of contractual reasons, but I was hired by a company based on my work on El Abdelaziz to kind of do more research on Jamaat al-Fukr and TMOA. So I have a lot of resources of people that I've spoken to that I've put you guys in touch with and stuff. So yeah, so we're kind of on the same page now as far as, wanting to get to the bottom of what was this group about.
So as being objective, like you weren't born in TMOA, you have nothing, like you just came kind of in from like the outside looking in. So like, give us your assessment as an objective person that you're not Muslim, you're not an Islamophobe. It's not like you have anything against TMOA, as far as like what you know about corruption, cults, your just whole assessment. Give us your assessment of what TMOA is from an objective outsider.
Sure. And my personality, as James can attest to, is I kind of go, down a rabbit hole and I find resources beyond regular resource. I talk to experts, I talk to psychologists. I've got probably a dozen law enforcement agents, both former and present, that have, I've been talking to with information that we've been bantering, sending back and forth. So when I look at TMOA, I think what the blind spot here is you don't even look at religion. Take religion out of the picture completely, and you look at it, you dissect it like you're a law enforcement agent or the law. It's no different than John Gotti's criminal organization from the top on down. And even the way that there's the power play going on at the top now, no different, because they were either instructed to or it's hard to say, because nobody will ever admit that the mob boss told them to make the hit. So there's so many similarities. I think it's just, they're a criminal organization. If I'm asked about it, it was a criminal organization masking as an Islamic, I guess sect is a bad word too, because people think of it as like a 4-letter word. So I don't know how to call it, but it was, I come from a Catholic church background. I no longer am in the Catholic church because of my problems and my feelings towards them being very cult-like in a lot of their behavior, especially sexual exploitation of children that, I saw covered up even in my hometown. So I feel that if you take away all the religious side of it all, you don't even need to look at that, because we know that everything that they've done by your exposing of the videos and what they said and what they've done is not Islamic at all. So there's no religion. People try to say that I'm an Islamophobe because I write about Ali Abdelaziz, who they say is Muslim. And we've talked about it. His behavior, his past, the way he treats, people, it is very un-Islamic. So to use that as an excuse, the same as he said he was only arrested after 9/11 because people were being racist towards him, when really, no, it was because you had all those passports and identities and bank accounts that you were kiting money through. So we can't cry that anytime we disagree with somebody, because you can't. They're trying to say that you all are un-Islamic and you're shirk and you're everything else, when you're trying to find the true path of Islam, to share it, and to, you're actually acting like the way that the Dar al-Islam tried to act, by having a brotherhood and a sisterhood and embracing people into the fold, rather than saying, no, you have to follow Islam this way, our way, or no way. And it's cult 101 from every cult expert I've talked to, every book I've read. What they're doing is wrong.
And,
so one thing real quick, one thing that we get a lot is that we have an axe to grind. We're bitter. We had some issues. We didn't get the girl we wanted, or lost the girl that we wanted, or some sort of issue as to why we are spending the time and energy on Janani, TMOA, the cult, or whatever. So, as far as your work, have you found any of that type of thing where people are saying, well, you motivated by some sort of ulterior motive? I know you mentioned the Islamophobe thing, but anything besides that, like, because that's kind of what we get.
100%. And you know what? Every one of my scratching, where it really scratched a little deep and it kind of hit a little bit close to home because the truths were coming out, every one of those ones, I had this, and I've shared it with James too. So I keep telling him, make sure that you have all the receipts, right? If the truth is the truth is the truth, no matter what somebody explains it away to be and how they try to say that it's, you know, something it isn't. The truth is the truth. So if you have letters, if you have people's testimony, more than one person, I always say, always get a couple of people. And if people don't want to give you their name, and if they don't want to speak, you know, give their voice, all of my great editors have told me you can do that, but just make sure that you have at least two people that were in the room when that was being said, so that it doesn't come back on that person. So don't just think of it as yourself being protected. Protect your wit. Like, I have sources right now that I've given pseudonyms to that are like could lose their job. I had sources that spoke to me only to say they can't speak to me because of agreements they've signed within law enforcement. And then Ali tried to sue them and tried to have them fired. And so that's, again, how you know that you're scratching the right surfaces. In Edmonton for years, while I was writing about how someone's going to die, how this guy was incompetent, how he was a narcissistic, you know, psychopath, sociopath, however you want to put him in the dark triad, where he doesn't care about the well-being of others as long as it helps him personally or professionally. This, going back to that guy, he went into the law branch the first day that he took the job. And this is what he told me during this long-winded interview when I was just calling for one answer. And he told me the first thing I did was I went into the law branch and said, what am I going to have to do to make sure, not what am I going to have to do to make sure nobody dies? What am I going to have to do to make sure I don't get sued if somebody dies? So yeah. Motives of there has to be, you know, almost a psychological test done on some of these great cult leaders. Everyone that's been arrested, or, you know, they've done like forensic psychology on, they found out that they've got this, they will do whatever it is. And the guy I was dealing with in Edmonton, like I said, came from Ottawa politics. So he knew all the tricks of the trade. He was putting out fake rumors that would get back to me, so he'd know who was feeding me information that were within his counsel. So it was a cat and mouse game. But what happens is that the greater part of it all is if you can withstand, you know, this guy for years was telling everybody he was going to sue me. I'm probably going to sue him. So what that is, it's a lazy way of not suing me because he'd have to pay money. But then people immediately think, well, nobody that's, you know, not innocent would sue somebody. So he must be innocent in their head. It's just a psychological tactic. So yeah, I've been called. So Edmonton, I was threatened by athletes there that told me to mind my own business because they were on the receiving end of some of the safety things that this guy was kind of looking the other way for, which led to a death. Now, you know, people that like legitimately wanted to change things there are thanking me, and nobody wants to talk about all the flack I went through, but I kept all those receipts too. So if anybody wants to bring it back out, screen grab everything, because these cowards will erase stuff as soon as they post it, because either they'll get in trouble by one of their so-called leaders or whatever it is. But the thing is you got to realize is that I talked to an FBI agent and an NYPD intelligence agent at X1. They both told me that. I said, so what's going on? Does anybody have to be afraid that anything's going to happen with this group? And they said, no, because they're being so watched by all of these different, you know, lettered agencies across the globe, that if any of them split up, they would, not only would they be shut down, but they would have even the ones that they suspect were, you know, guilty of some of these violent crimes, some of these fraud crimes that, you know, we have evidence of stuff like we've talked about, James. I have a trove of evidence that I received from some intelligence agents that point to Barry Adams, who led the hit squad in Texas, that there were other things that he was involved with that weren't really tied back to him originally, that, you know, they were bringing, like Stephen Pastor was going to be the guy that was going to help build the bombs for Toronto. So, you know, there were big things going on, but people always say, well, maybe they were just some bad apples. Well, these bad apples were the ones at the top of the cart. Right. You can't look at the fact that the bad apples were James Williams, right, who was the leader in Colorado, James Upshur, who was one of the leaders in Colorado. You know, we've got all of the guys that were the top echelon that just happened to get caught. Barry Adams in Toronto, or on the Rainbow Bridge. You look at these people and you think it's not a coincidence that all the leaders were caught up in these, you know, so-called, you know, blood feuds from Pakistan that they're, you know, these guys are taking up in Toronto. Come on. Right.
Let me say something real quick. Let me say something. Unapologetically, I want to, you know, address the elephant in the room. And first, I want to say, Mike, we appreciate you, you know, for coming on, sharing your information. We're going to address this elephant in the room that we know we're going to get some flack for. And I'm not about to sugarcoat this at all. So from a different vantage point, you coming onto our platform, some of the community members or even some of our, companions or whatever, they would look at this as a sign of betrayal. Let's be very clear.
Sure.
They're going to be looking at it as like,
Sure.
you guys let some, non-Muslim or whatever they might, call you or refer to you as. And we want to be very clear here. I do appreciate what you said about the truth, because that's the truth. The truth is always going to be the truth,
100%.
Falsehood will not be able to stand up to truth. We are about the truth at this point. We want to bring about and shed light on the true Islamic, practice. This is what we're interested in. We have no other interest, and we appreciate that you would come on and share your information. And we're honored about this, just to be very clear. So
sure. Yeah.
I got a question. So like one of the things that a lot about like the criminal aspect of El Fukra, TMOA, MOA, whatever you want to call it. And one of the things that we've like, I got questions coming in right now. Like for instance, an individual named Chris Childs.
Yep.
And like he's one of these people that was like involved in these like
Colorado.
crimes.
Yep.
Yeah, and then he like disappeared. So like, what do you know about like him specifically? Because we know we have his family members that are like, he has children that don't even know like what happened to him, where he's at. Like, so anything
Was he the one that went to Pakistan?
Yep.
Yes. Yep.
Was he not the gentleman that died a few years ago?
We don't know.
Yeah,
so, like,
there was a gentleman that died, and I believe it was Chris Childs a few years ago. Let me find out those dates. Don't quote me on it, but I believe it was him and Pastor that went over at the same time because they were involved in the same breakup. I believe he did pass away a few years ago. I believe that was the news.
What crimes were they involved in? Why they were here? What made them run?
Childs was involved in that whole case with Upshur, with Williams, and there was a few of them that were involved as well. I can't remember all the names off the top of my head, but they were running some workman's comp schemes where one was posing as the other, and they were saying they hurt themselves, and he hired himself and he got hurt, but they were using multiple IDs. So, we've seen pictures of the IDs. It's all them. You can tell it's the same person with his head cocked one way, cocked the other way. And they were all caught. But that was the other thing that people don't realize, because, not a lot of people other than certain circles know about it. But again, when we're reading things from Martin Moyer, and that's the problem I have, is Martin Moyer, I'll send you some of the videos of some of the ads he's put out about like Hillary Clinton and, being a lesbian and all this, crazy stuff. Well, then he just happens to have some fans that just give him some information in law enforcement. That's where it starts off, right? So he makes these contacts. Right. So that legitimizes a regular kook who's hiring Hooters waitresses to go into like, TMOA businesses to try to like shake it up. And it's like, it's not how it's done. If you want to do actual journalism, don't pose as a journalist, do it right. But anyway, they were workman's comp scheme. Remember they had the compound that they basically bought through workman's comp. Yep. And they had they'd stolen a bunch of rental equipment and they never paid for it with fake IDs. There's a whole list of stuff.
One thing that we talk about, and it really hasn't been covered much on our show or on the content we put out there, is like, so you have people in TMOA that will take different positions. So you have the people that take the position of like they're just bad apples and they're rogues acting on their own, which is actually a minority position because most people actually know that they're operating under Mubarak Jelani's order. Then you have people that take that position. Then you have people that take a position that like, no, they're actually doing like God's work, holy work or whatever. So like one thing, like, could you talk about for our audience, like one, your knowledge or the evidence that you know of Mubarak Jelani being directly like involved or giving orders, and two, the aspect of like when Barry Adams and them were planning these bombs and all these different things, they actually had like mistresses all over the states that came and testified against them. They had girlfriends and people that they were like, this is not how Muslims should act, but they were doing this thing, supposedly doing God's work.
I actually went to the site of where that bomb plot was supposed to be this summer, and I shared some of the photos with James and some of the stories with James. So if you don't know anything about the plot, it was Barry Adams. There's a guy that's got a couple different identities he uses. He goes by either Robert Wesley or Robert Johnson. There is, he goes by Calvin Harris, but he was also Kaba. He went by Kaba, which was, a family that's still involved. Who else was involved? Glenn Ford, who was the Emir in Toronto, was involved as well. So what happened was, in as quick as I can tell it, at the Rainbow Bridge in Toronto, Glenn Ford was driving Barry Adams' mother-in-law's car, who he had been estranged from for a number of years for whatever reason. He was driving her, because he dropped the kids off there apparently one summer, according to her testimony, and just left them. And then she had to fly back to Trinidad to try to find them and drop them off. So they were driving his mother-in-law's car, who he had just made up with and borrowed her car to go across the border to go pick up all the weapons and parts for the bombings that they needed. There were backpacks that were packed at another member's house that were packed with machetes, spear guns for hand-to-hand combat, shotguns, sawed-off shotguns, I think some semi-automatics, pistols. So each person was going to be carrying a backpack. If the bombs didn't go off or if something happened while they were trying to flee, they were going to just chop through the crowd during Diwali. So that's the biggest festival in Hindu culture, is Diwali, the Festival of Lights. So there are two targets that were going to go off at the same time using time bombs. I have the receipts for the timers that Glenn Wesley or Johnson bought. They actually, and he used two different names, but when you put them together, actually called Robert Johnson. It was like something Roberts. And so everything was just, it was sloppily done. But to answer your question about, were these just rogues? No, these were military precision. So they would have multiple people go in and scope out the different places and take pictures and photographs. They took video and they dress up as, like, when they went into the Hindu temple, one of them wore like a straight wig and shaved his beard off, and he got caught like filming these different areas. Well, the woman that I met this summer was a security guard at the theater that they were planning to bomb. And now it was a woman's shelter for single, single mothers. And when I started letting her read through the plans that were in Barry Adams' handwriting, she actually openly started weeping, because there was a line in there that I don't know the exact words. I'm just paraphrasing, but I can share the documents with you. It said, this is an area that there will definitely be people that are non-Muslim, non-Hindu, but we will basically chalk them up as being friends of Hindus. Like, that's how we will justify it to Allah, is we will say that they were friends of Hindus. Well, it's not Allah that has this problem with Hindus. It's your Pakistan-based sheikh who hates Kashmiris that are Indian, who hates Indians. He's pushed that upon you, because the people that I interviewed on that street, it's in Little India that they were going to bomb. So there were bazaar fronts there. I took video of it. There was like music playing at this. There was an actual Pakistani food restaurant across, like an outdoor bazaar type restaurant from Lahore, where Jelani's from, and they had a clothing shop that would have been obliterated in the blast as well. So they were like, telling, and the woman that was a security guard at the shelter let me go in, and I took pictures of where they had drawn out where they were going to put the bomb, so that they blew up natural gas lines. And they had people testify at the trial that said it would have taken out the whole city block. And at the time, there was a public library that shared a wall with the theater that there could have been children in at the time as well. So they estimated that it would have been either between 3,200 and 7,000 people that would have died. And that would have been, like so much more than even 9/11 took. And it would have marked Toronto as, where I'm from the Toronto area. I'm from Ontario, just outside of Toronto, would have marked us as being ground zero for Islamic terrorism in Canada. And it was meant to be. It was the first trial of its kind. So when they actually had the trial, you want to talk about weird kind of things that they do. They put all the men on a stage that were, up for, they had them for like all these different charges, but at the end it got whittled down to just public endangerment, because they never actually pulled it off. If they had pulled it off, everybody that was involved, and even the people that I've gone through, I've got the actual evidence binder that I was given from some intelligence agents from the States. I've gone through it with a fine tooth comb, and I've shared pages with James and, analyzing different things. There's other crimes and other people that were involved in these plots that got away with it because, they used so many of their Islamic name changes. which is very strange to me, right? Like, as far as I know, when you typically take a name, you don't change it 4 or 5 times to something else to try to, like, it's the same as their government names, right? They always would be changing those as well. So, what I want to say to you guys is you're doing such a good job because of the backlash that you're getting. But the better part of that is like me, there's people that will reach out that you never knew would reach out. I've had ex-girlfriends of Ali reach out. I've had, people that were involved with the commission in Edmonton during all of the stuff that was going on that were reaching out because they were being emboldened by the fact that their stories were the same as these ones. So keep going, do what you can, and just don't let it deter you from doing what's right. And that's, that's all that we can do.
I have a direct question. I have a direct question for you, Mike.
Sure.
Short and sweet answer, or you can feel free to elaborate. But
Sure.
Do you think that Mubarak Galani is a good liar?
I think, yeah, you know what? Yes, because I've studied con men quite a lot, and I've studied the dark triad quite a lot. So the people that are even show the dark triad is one of 3 things. It's narcissism, it's psychopathy, and it's sociopathy. So they're all slightly different, and sometimes they can kind of intermingle with each other, but the very least worrisome of all of them is narcissism, because that like a narcissist, like, sure, they like to talk about themselves. They think they're great. They may, steal your thunder a little bit, but they're not going to stab you. They're not going to, but from what we've heard about Jelani, about him ordering, MJ to kill, or sorry, who was it? Brother
MJ, and kill his friend.
To kill his friend,
Abu Muhammad.
Yep. Right there, it shows, right? Or the way that he's used young girls as his personal sex toys, right? Right there, like I'm surprised that the government hasn't gotten involved, because if you look at it and you boil it down, no matter if there's permission given or not after the fact, during the fact, if you're sending 12-year-olds to marry 50-year-old men, 40-year-old men, that's like international child sex trafficking. It broaches those areas. And for members to be okay with that when they're hearing all of these different things that, they're tying mothers up in trailers and they're doing everything else, strip away the religion. If somebody at your school or PTA, somebody was doing that to you, like anywhere you go, at your job, if somebody was treating somebody like that, how come it's any different where the place that's supposed to be helping, nurturing, making you a better person is actually breaking you down and making you feel worthless? That's how you know it's a cult, right?
Yep.
Well said, brother. Well said.
So I got a question. I think a lot of times we get a certain level of people are through up the levels, right? You have just the general population, and you have people as higher up you go, the closer they can get to really making your story or your case or really proving what what you kind of know. And we have gotten to points where certain people have said, I know you're right. And they have the information that either they themselves can say, hey, this is what it is, and can pretty much make the truth be known.
Yep.
But either due to some family ties, or because financially they'll be hurt, or due to just fear of them physically, maybe they would be hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes it's just good old pride gets in the way. They don't want to look so bad, and so they will let the lie go on. They will let the corruption go on because they don't want to look so bad. So in your searches for the truth, or trying to uncover certain things with your things, how have you dealt with that, where you get to a person who they will tell you off the record, you're right, I can help you, but I can't because of 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever those reasons. I think the worst of them is this, just the pride of, I can't, and sometimes they won't come out and say that, but they don't want to look bad. Sometimes that's the case. But how have you dealt with that type of thing?
Well, it's a combination of things, right? It's very hard. Humans in general find it very hard to say, yeah, I was wrong about something. Especially you've probably all gone through it before, where you go, you know what, you pull out Google and you're wrong. And you're like, you have that feeling. Everybody's done it. Mm-hmm. It's hard, and all of you probably had that at first, where it was like, do I want? I remember myself when I, because like I said, I walked away from Catholicism when I was old enough to make that decision and see what was going on around me. With basically they had like an underground railroad of pedophile priests that they were just going, oh, you know what, telling parents that, well, you could press charges, but it'll be pretty embarrassing for your kid, type of thing. Like they're victim blaming the victim, and they stay in power and they move them. And we're seeing these same priests at track meets when we're going to track meets, and we're like, what's going on here? How is this even possible? Right. But it opened my eyes. But to answer your question directly, people don't really want to, if they've even got an inkling that maybe they can get a little piece of what they can get. You know what I mean? Like there's some people that have no power, but they're maybe on the cusp of, maybe if so-and-so leaves or something happens here, they're just waiting because there's so many people that just admire people that have power. And it's terrible because I'm finding the same thing with Ali Abdelaziz. As many people as he's stolen from, lied about, like done terrible things to, people don't care. Right. There's certain areas where even in my sport where people that are, higher up reporters with maybe more of an ear than I have because they have a bigger following, don't really want to rock that boat because they maybe need access to him or they need, access to one of his clients. So people like Jelani, people like, all of his Murshids and people like, his wives and everybody else have made themselves very useful. And the more useful that you are, and the more you can almost make yourself so you're obsolete if the company couldn't run without you because you're taking all the recipes home with you. So they're just gripping at everything that they can to try to stop what you're exposing here. But like every time you knock a rock out and they lose a handhold, they're just reaching for something else. And that their PR team. And my background was I actually studied public relations in school, so I was an honors public relations grad. So I'm very with anything, I'm sure you guys are the same. You read a lot about other cults and you kind of study all, and in your vocation of wherever you work, you probably, if you work on cars, you're going to see a car and be like, well, I know that engine, or you kind of out of interest. So I watch how their PR works, and it's so rudimentary that they basically do the head in the sand, don't answer, which is like no comment is so. My first week in school, they said, what's everybody know about PR? And they said, what's something you can use? And somebody said, no comment. And they said, you're lucky because I would have failed you if that was a test, because no comment is, why would you let something like that simmer? It's like the Dana White slap incident that we had like a few weeks ago, right? Where he did come out and say something, but then he said, go to TMZ for my answer. Go to a broadcast partner or they have like a media partnership with WME where they actually like set up interviews that they know somebody where they are and stuff too. So I wouldn't go too far with, you have to look at the source of who's saying what, and you have to look at why they're saying it. What have they got to gain by, putting the truth out? Nothing. Well, then why bother? And that's it too with me. I've had friends, message me about great job. I love it. You're doing such a good job. It's compelling work, but I can't really talk about it. And I just say, hey man, it is what it is, right? That's not me. That's not me. And that's why I don't have a big paying gig, and why I'm not making any money off of my work right now is because I don't want to suck it up and just write about what Conor McGregor is having for breakfast, or, all these like stupid stories that like get clicks. And it's like, that's the only way that you can make it in this industry, because people don't really want to pay for real journalism, because here in Canada, we're spoiled. We have the CBC, which is regulated and it's owned by the government, but it's like if we find out they're being biased, we send in a complaint and they fix the problem. But I find it very balanced. So we've been spoiled. We never had to pay for that, but people don't want to pay for online news. And for them to get reimbursed for the type of work that I do, that, I've done, 7 years that I've kind of done, I've been following Ali, I've been following Edmonton, I've been following TMOA, I've been following, all these different things, to be like an expert type person on it and to get like a real grasp on things. You never make back. Some websites pay as little as like $20 for a website, for a web article, no matter what it is, right? I was lucky because I actually got like a couple jobs that were full-time editor gigs. So I got spoiled, but the problem is you kind of still want to go find that brass ring again and still make that kind of money somewhere, even though, we're kind of being made obsolete by video, because that's what everybody's doing now. Everybody's turning to video, but if you want to be a video star, then, you guys all have the looks for it. I'm like hiding in the shadows over here. So.
Well, I got one last question. I got one last question.
I got a question too.
Okay, guys.
Let me fire mine away, then I'll let you go. I was just thinking of how we kind of are in a kind of like in a parallel universe, I guess, or maybe same universe but same neighborhood. But like, how do you deal with like people who may wind up as collateral damage? For instance, like, and you have the information that can make the story or can
Yep.
get there, but there's one, two, or maybe a handful of people that are going to be they're going to be affected when really you really don't want them to be hurt, but they had the chance to get out of the way, or they had the chance, but you know, now it's like, I don't really, you're not the target, you're not really who I want, but you know, in order to make it clear who the bad guy is, a couple of other people are also going to be lumped in with that bad guy. And so we kind of deal with that a lot sometimes.
Well, yeah, so and that's it. And it's never intentional. Like when I kind of thought I was in that situation. I don't know, like if you guys follow MMA at all, but my work was kind of brought to the attention of everybody because Conor McGregor mentioned it at a press conference. So then he mentioned Noah, who was Ali Abdelaziz's son that he abandoned years ago before, like while he left to become a CI to follow TMOA around the globe, he abandoned his son in Colorado. So I'd found the son, I'd talked to his stepfather, I'd talked to, you know, I had information that they were giving me, and I got the go ahead to write the story as long as I didn't use his last name. Well, we didn't figure it would get as big as it when I first wrote it 3 or 4 years earlier. Well, then when Conor reached out, I told him what to read on my site, and he read through that. And, you know, we talked about some details, and next thing you know, people are saying, oh yeah, you ruined this kid's life and everything else. Cause Ali's trying to say his son's being harassed at school. Well, I talked to him on the phone and he's like, no, not at all. He goes, I don't know what you're talking about. You know, there's people that'll say that it hurt people. Like you'll probably get people that won't address you personally and say it hurt them. You'll have a third party reach out and say, how could you do that? You know how that made, well, yes, but if they want to talk to me about it, feel free to talk to me. I didn't do it to hurt you. Right. So that was one instance where I thought it had happened. But in your same question, I'm kind of the same boat. Like if I'm telling you, here's the information, here's documentation, here's the proof. I've had fighters tell me that if I could prove that all of the things that I said were true as far as criminal charges went towards Ali, they would leave him. And then next thing you know, the tweet's deleted, and we find out that he's running all of these accounts. So you have to make sure that when you're having a conversation, you have a voice on the other end of the line too, because people will text on behalf of other people as well, right? Somebody that happened to a guy early on in my career. He did a whole interview with Andrei Arlovsky, who was a UFC fighter, only to find out it was an online troll that did this whole interview. He's like, I've never spoken to this guy in my life. Well, he did it through email, right? You don't get don't ever do an email. If you want an answer from somebody, I had an actual teacher that was my PR writing teacher, who was also a journalism teacher and a journalist. He said, call them right up, because when people are on the phone, they don't have time to make up an answer or to get their story straight or to, you know, make sure, and they'll always stutter about stuff. And if you go back, they can't you'll notice it. If they're put on the spot, you want an answer about something serious, call them up and say, I need to ask you this, blah, blah, blah. Give it to them right on this. And if they answer and you don't think it's a true answer, just wait, just stop, close your mouth, make it uncomfortable, because everybody, when they're nervous and they're telling lies, will just keep talking. And when they keep talking, some of the stuff gets so outlandish. That happened with that Edmonton interview. I'll send to you guys off, you know, when we're done with this. But yeah, there's people that, you know, catch them on the spot. And if they really have a beef with you and they have something that, you know, like they think that you did it maliciously, or, you know, this is the outcome of it, apologize if it's warranted. Say, listen, I'm sorry that happened, but I did kind of warn you, get off that train, because that's the bus that's going to rob a bank, right? It's like, you can't reason with everybody. And there's some people that will go down with every sinking ship because they think there's just one last chance that they might be the top one on that ship when it goes down. But I don't get it, because it doesn't look like, I don't know what's in it for TMOA anymore. Like who?
It's pride.
I got a quick question, Mike.
Yep.
So dealing with this current power struggle that's going on with all of Mubarak Galani's children.
Yep.
Would you say that, dealing with your experience dealing with criminal organizations and cults and stuff, would you say that this is sloppy, in that this power struggle that they're dealing with once the cult or criminal organization leader dies? Is this like a normal occurrence when you're dealing with organizations and cults and things like that?
Well, see, I don't think they were as organized crime when it came to everything. It was just organized when it came to the money fraud, and when it came, because they had people that were directing it, and they had people that were writing up the plans. They had people that were all working. So they were trying to make it so that, but the reason they were doing all of these military missions was because they were trying to earn the favor of the ISI at the time. So as far as looking at it as like a criminal organization, the power grab 100% looks just like, you'd see in all these movies that you'd watch about, or, a Blacklist episode where so-and-so dies. But, when we're hearing these details about how, he died from COVID, and he might've died from this, and he might've died from that, and nobody was allowed to see. There's got to be transparency. And if I can't believe the police hadn't gotten involved, if it's as serious as it is. I don't know what the police is like, as far as investigations, like homicide. I know they ruled it natural causes, but there's a lot going on over there. But as far as them all,
did they even report it to the police over there?
Who knows?
I don't think they did, because come on, that's going to start uncovering. That's going to start going down a rabbit hole and unraveling everything.
And
So
if they got those, like if Fatima was it that got those messages that were going from the doctors? If she could get those, then the police would have been able to get them.
It's a wrap.
Right?
That's all they need right there. So I'm gonna ask one more
ISI
question.
might have just been like, no, it's fine. Just don't look at it, because he's got files under his bed we don't want you knowing about.
Right.
Yeah, let me ask you one more question, and then I'm gonna let you ask your question. I'm gonna do what you need to do. All right. So since you're coming from a very unique angle than most of our listeners are used to. They're used to hear it from us in religious standpoint, us being Muslims, you being non-Muslim, with your background and everything what would be your advice to people that would like to escape, or try to get out, or try to disconnect, or just stop the oppression that is occurring to them, and be able to leave the organization, or try to get away from it? And remember, not from a religious standpoint, because that's the one we usually come from. So dealing with your experience, what would be your advice, the steps to take so they can stop allowing themselves to be exploited?
Well, life experience alone, I think, has taught me that ask other people who have done something that you're interested in doing, or that you might want to do. So ask the people that have left. And I think, you look at all the people that are here that are talking about, I can't believe I was, if you pull the Band-Aid off and admit, man, you know what? I drank a little bit more of the Kool-Aid than everybody else. You just admit it, right? It's done with. You're not going to get slagged. You're going to get embraced by this group to say, welcome aboard, right? Nobody's going to say, oh yeah, well, you held out longer than us and you're only here because of this. Well, no. You want to actually make a difference. You're going to make sure that they're not going to abuse any more children, that they're not going to abuse any more women, that they're not going to abuse any more of the funding that's given, that they're not going to leave anybody starving, in some of these compounds while everybody is getting fat out in Pakistan, right? Like there's a lot of things that would, but to me, the only thing would be to burn it to the ground. You can't keep changing the name of the same old thing, changing the garb of the same bones and think that anybody's going to think any differently of it, because it's always going to haunt you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have one question, but first I want to thank you for coming on the show.
No problem.
Very informational for me. Jaffer Clear's been holding out on us on all the information that he's getting. So Jaffer, shame on you. So we do hope that you come on in the future. Whatever is available for you works for us, then that'd be great.
Absolutely.
My question is, so there's this notion that Mubarak Jilani was on the no-fly list, and that is why he couldn't come back to America, right? Do you have any knowledge of him being on the no-fly list? Is this true or not, or is this something that people just say?
I don't believe so, but I think he left because he was worried that he was going to be implicated in all of the things that were happening from 89 to 90. I think it was 92 or 93 when he left. And I think it was Barry Adams's trial was in 94, and then there was the World Trade Center bombing in 93 that they've got, loose links to and stuff as well. So he went to that, the Popular Islamic, or what was it? Popular Arab and Islamic Conference in Sudan, I think in 93, and never came back. So I don't think he was actually on a no-fly list, because I think they would have loved to get him back to America, to be honest, because, everybody talks about, oh, he was a CIA, this and that. Well, at one point, I think he was a conduit for the CIA to get people to come, and join the Mujahideen, because they wanted them to come because they hated the Russians. So they were doing anything they could. And, you know, we've heard, I have a friend who's a journalist in Pakistan who told me that, and he wrote a story about it. Jelani used to own a gun store that he used to arm Mujahideen in. So we don't know if those were ISI guns that he was getting, that he was, you know, acting as a conduit for. But I've also heard through my journalist friend that I think it was Shafat told somebody, I don't know if it was him or somebody else, that when Jelani got arrested for Daniel Pearl's murder, when they, you know, thought or kidnapping, they said that he said to the agent, the ISA agent that picked him up, "Hey, I'm one of yours. I'm one of your agents. It's me. It's Ali Shah or Shah." You know, he's got so many different names.
So many honorifics. Yep.
You know, the fact that he even made everybody call him Abu is gross. Like, I always found that weird about the Catholicism thing about calling everybody father, right? You're not my father.
Yeah,
right?
it's weird.
And I'm real glad you're not when I figure out what you've been doing behind the scenes with most of you. So, right. So
he got people, he's 30 years older than him, and they're calling him Abu.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, no.
Well, Mike, we definitely appreciate you coming on. It's been great. I know we're definitely going to have you back on again, and we're going to do more stuff together.
I watch as much as I can, and you know, if I don't get to watch it live, you've probably seen me comment sometimes because I'm like, ask him this. I'm like a fan, you know, tell him to ask like certain people certain questions. But it's good because again, like James and I have always talked. We're like, if we ever work on a project together, be it, you know, I'm trying to get a podcast off the ground. I've got a couple TV type things that are underway with my other work. So I said, if we could ever work together, I said the perfect title would be Finding Fukra, because we're all trying to find what it was about. Right. So, you know, everybody wants that. We're all on the same boat. I'm not one of these guys that's like, oh, it's because they were Muslim or it was. I'm like, you know what? Let's find out what this group really was. Let's show the world what not to join up with. You know, we can use it as, I know it's like a cautious tale where we're telling everybody, you know, through all the things that everybody's gone through. But if we don't hear all of these terrible stories that, you know, Scheherazade and everybody has been sharing, that's been so compelling for everybody, you see that bravery, and you see that, you know, it also makes you think, well, if they're going to do it, then maybe these people will stand up for me. And I don't think, you know, anybody gets attacked. We all hear about it and we're like, well, who is he to say? He's done this, and this, right? So if you want the truth hurts, but the truth is the truth.
Absolutely.
100%.
All right, we appreciate it, Mike.
Thanks,
we'll be
guys.
in contact, of course. Thank you for joining us, and you have a great night.
Great job, guys. Thanks. Keep up the good work.
Take care.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
All right. So we're going to get into the documentary by Fafa Jelani of them killing her father, which she so graciously put out as a publicity stunt. Wait, hold on. I forgot to share my my sound. Okay. All right.
मुस्तफा जाने रहमत पे लाखों सलाम शम्माए बज़ में हिदायत पे लाखों सलाम हम गरीबों के आका पे बेहद दरूद.
Oh yeah, she's trying to send us to jail. Not shocking anymore, actually.
So she claims to our community in America that I am the vanguard, I am the custodian, I am the protector of the family of the Prophet ﷺ. But today's Eid Miladun Nabi, we get a notice from the court, which is 90% lies. He's an old man. Old people get anxious a lot, like they get really moody. So they'll just pop him a sleeping pill, go to sleep. So the doctors who were involved in all of this were heart doctors, who are her talibs right now, who are always around her. So most likely when Abu had the stroke.
Can we pause it right here?
The stroke, he had the first stroke.
This a little bit.
Okay.
So they just basically told us how Mubarak Jelani.
Just a heads up, I couldn't actually see or hear anything. I think.
Oh, you couldn't?
No,
well, let's just talk about what we remember from the video, because we only got like 20 minutes left anyway. And I think that video was like 20 minutes long. But like right there,
yeah.
that one part he mentioned was about how they've been giving him pills to basically control his unruly behavior. And we've been hearing stuff about, like, people ask questions like, how long has Noor actually been in charge? Well, how long have you guys been giving him pills to control his behavior, to put him to sleep when he's getting unruly and saying things that you guys don't want to hear? So you give him some sleeping pills to go to sleep. How long has that been happening?
And okay, you're giving him pills, popping him pills to control his unruly behavior. Meanwhile, y'all waiting here back in the States with bated breath for any sort of directive that he can guide you on controlling your unruly behavior. I mean, it's a game. Go ahead.
And there's so many things in that video. Like, they go on to explain all these different things. And one thing that popped out to me, and just so everybody knows, Mudasa, Mr. Mountain Man, Mr. I don't play cat and mouse games.
Yes, he does.
He went on our Facebook page again and said, I'm going to come on your show if you don't disparage, or whatever words he used, my boo. And we were like, all right, deal. Come on the show. And we don't expect him to come on the show. We don't expect him to follow through. This is the second time he's done this. But in that video, he says something, and I don't know if he realizes what he's saying. He's like, oh, no, let's tell the truth now. There's nothing to hide. So what have you been not telling the truth about? What have you been lying about? What have you been hiding for all these years? For you people, you got to kind of like pay attention to what's going on. We say this over and over and over again. Like, it's at this point is really, really beyond ridiculous that you guys can still follow this stuff and follow these people.
Yep. And another thing too is, like, why have you been hiding it? Is it because, like we say, you're in it for the money, like everyone else in your family seems to be? So you know that, hey, if I speak out against Saida Noor, as you guys call her, for some reason, she's not. Anyway, you guys speak out against her, your money's gone. Same thing for Sultan or any of the other people involved. You guys love your father so much, but seem to put him on the back burner whenever money's involved.
I have a question. Who was the lead medical expert that was dealing with administering the pills, or the black market stuff that got him about it?
I would say Dr. Jamil, because he's the only one who's actually a doctor. Everyone else kind of just K2 in a lab coat.
I mean, it seems a bit
in that chat. In that chat, you had Dr. Jamil, who's actually a real doctor. The thing Mudasa in there says, like, oh, they're all nurses and midwives. It's not true, actually.
That's not true at all.
Dr. Jamil's a doctor. You had Dr. Bowers, who's a doctor. And there was Dr. Balkis, she's a nurse, but she's a doctorate nurse. So you had people that are actually really qualified medical people that were doing whatever they're doing. And one of the things that kind of, like, the phrase that kind of pops in my head every time I think about this is the chicken's coming home to roost, right? Because for how many years was Mubarak Jelani pretty much playing doctor? Like, he was a medical professional, handling people's lives, giving out fake prescriptions. Don't go to the hospital. Have your baby in this shed in the back of the land. But if you have problems, run to the hospital, right? All this literally played out. His teachings that he was doing for the last 40 years played out in the last few days of his death, where it actually aided and assisted to him dying.
Came full circle. He was honestly playing more than doctor. He was playing God, and it failed miserably. And it's going to come back around when it comes back.
And to address those birthing centers, just to be clear, they was charging between $700 to $1,000.
Y'all were getting scammed?
To go give birth, for your wife to go and
go give birth in the shed.
In New York, this is what they're doing, right? They were. I know multiple people that use this birthing center. They'll go have the baby at the birthing center, right? And if there was any complications, they would then send them to the hospital. Or then even after they had the baby, they would immediately send them to the hospital and say, oh, say you gave birth in the car or something, it came too fast. So it's like you're still relying on this kafir medical whatever to take care of your
and
baby.
The nearest hospital is about what, 45 minutes away?
Yep, an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And like we said earlier in the show, like Mubarak Jelani's ideas to stop the spread of COVID, right? Besides making his Mubarak water that his daughter professed as the cure because her aunt had a dream with Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and they are the dream family. But anyway, his ideas to stop COVID were like, listen, don't go outside of the TMO lands, stay inside the lands, don't contact anyone outside the lands, and wear a mask. So basically, he's like, listen, just follow the CDC, but also drink my hair water, and you have to be okay. Maybe get vaccinated, maybe don't. Who knows?
Well, not only that, I just realized dealing with the Mubarak water, I know we beat it, the dead horse alive, but just one more thing. How is your daughter going to make the debut WhatsApp video or YouTube video with this profound miracle? And then you follow up on it when you're supposed to be the lead and it's supposed to have came from you and you know the knowledge and all that. How is she going to make the whole debut? Then you follow up and ad lib? Yeah, that's it.
Because he didn't have a dream. That's why, Mo. It didn't come
like
to him.
That's backwards. And then like you couldn't even take the video serious. She's in there laughing, dancing, smiling, and doing all this stuff, carrying on.
I had a dream.
Like, you can't even take it serious. The whole thing's a joke. It's a circus.
Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is a circus. And just to kind of like, well, because we're going to be wrapping up here soon. If you guys have any questions, please ask them. But if we could pull up, I don't know if we could pull up the first 10 ayats of Surah Al-Kahf. And it kind of like, when you look at these ayats, and you don't have to go too deep into the tafsir, but just contemplate on what they're actually saying in the ayats. And it's real revealing, especially from our background, of what Allah is telling us in these ayats. So if you go to Surah Al-Kahf, which is, I think it's the 18th surah.
1 second. Take it.
Yeah.
No?
Yes. So Allah starts on, we're supposed to read this every Friday, right? And what we should do is we should try to read it at least once with the English and the tafsir to kind of get a full understanding. But Allah starts off by saying, all praises for Allah who has revealed the book to his servant, allowing no crookedness in it. So we already know this. The Quran's perfect, right? All of our guidance can be on there. There's no mistakes. There's no contradictions, nothing. Then Allah continues and says, making it perfectly upright to warn the disbelievers of a severe torment from Allah and to give good news to the believers that they will have a fine reward. Okay, so it's warning of punishments and promises of paradise. And Allah continues to say, the believers will remain forever. And this is the one that really is like, okay, I want to talk about this on the show. And I want to get your guys's, like, what you guys think about it when Allah says, and to warn those who claim Allah has offspring or walid, right? And it gets translated easy as offspring. But when we look at what walid means, right, it's actually really talking about these concepts of like the seven sultan, these alleged like manifestations of Allah being a trinity, Allah having sons, Allah having daughters, or Allah having offspring, like that whole concept. And like, this is a surah that we're supposed to read every Friday. And Allah is telling us like, this is a warning against people who do this, right? And then the next ayat, and I really want to get you guys' feedback on this one, is where Allah says, they have no knowledge of this, nor did their forefathers. What a terrible claim that comes out of their mouths. They say nothing but lies. Now think about that ayat and then put it in context with the whole beliefs of the seven sultans and all that, and like just put those together when you think about that.
I mean, the thing is, if someone doesn't have any knowledge of a thing, the only thing left for them to do is to just lie about it. You know, if they're talking about it, they don't have knowledge about it, and they're talking about it, especially from this authoritative perspective. And, you know, like the video where he's like gyrating and talking about, tell the Mahdi about me and XYZ, you know, like that. It's like literally you're lying and you're putting on this like fake, like extra over the top performance to sell the lie. I mean, you know, I have seen, you know, I mean, look at all the shuyukh you look and you watch and you listen to or whatever. You see the demeanors and kind of even how they talk, even whether it's about themselves or about other people, about, you know, Islam. They just don't. They don't talk like that in such an arrogant way about themselves. You know.
Now that you mention that, I'm trying to think of a time when a sheikh has actually ever even mentioned themselves.
No.
Like, I can't think of any time.
There was one incident that Sheikh al-Uthaymeen, he was given a talk, a lecture or a class or somewhere, and he was being introduced, you know, and they introduced him as, you know, a reviver of the deen, and, you know, he's, you know, separate truth from falsehood, like gave him a really nice, you know, and he actually cut the person off. The person who was introducing him, he cut him off and said, "May Allah forgive this person. May Allah forgive this person, you know, to stop and don't do that. Just call me by my name and let's get on with the lesson here." So this is something that, you know,
I was about to
really
say, let's be clear. That type of behavior is what you would expect, what all of us would expect from a leader amongst men. You know what I mean? Nobody gets in front and then starts doing me, I. No one really does that. That's not the mark of
a real leader.
Yeah,
that's on some real. No, they don't. That's not something they're gonna do.
That's not
you can even go to like the types of things where arrogance is expected, like say like basketball, right? Like athletes after the games, like Michael Jordan, LeBron, Kobe, they know they're that guy, but they're like, "I'd like to thank my teammates. You know, they help me out." Like,
they give you the, you know, it's not a one-man team, and, you know, I think my teammates have put me in a good position to be able to score, and the support of my team actually was help me to score the points or whatever it might be. You really see people who really are that guy. I mean, so many people are telling them that they're that guy. They don't even need to say it. They literally just be like, they kind of deflect a little bit of it, because a normal response from a person is that you get uncomfortable when you're praised too much. You get uncomfortable when you're calling and asking and demanding it. That he should look at me. They should forget about the Mahdi. Look what the man said. I know this is not what the show is about, but the man said, "Forget about the Mahdi. Ask about me." I'm like, how wild is that? I mean, that is absolutely crazy.
It was visibly upset at the mere idea that someone wasn't paying attention to him, what was more excited about the information we got.
And like, this is how you know he's a sociopath, right? Because like Hubar Jilani, he didn't have anything that qualified him to be a leader, right? But still, folks in droves would praise him. They would praise him all the time. Every one of his followers, his loyal followers, would talk about how great he was nonstop, and he still needed praise. He still wanted more praise because he knew deep down that is not me. So he had to keep hearing reassurances every time. Tell me who I am. Tell me who I am. Like he's not comfortable inside of his own skin. Like you see, I'm him, right? I'm him, right? I'm him, right? No, you're not. You're not him. Sorry, you never were him.
And now that you know, sorry for going down this rabbit hole, Jafar. I know you're trying to move on, but let's just say that now look at what his followers are doing. They are using their groveling and camise riding, as Hussein says, and daggone slobbering all over him as a currency. It's a currency used within TMOA circles for clout. It's a clout currency where you be like, yeah, my Murshid, and you see how extreme you can be about your Murshid, and now your Murshida, okay? And then that is like a way for you to prop your own self up. These people are praising Jilani. Make no mistake about it. They're praising Jilani in order to make themselves look good. That's it. In the quiet of their homes, when no one's around, they don't think this man is some spiritual guide or nothing. They don't even think about that. They really don't. After all this time, after all the things that come out, things that have been said, they don't believe that. It's purely every time they post, every time they make a status, every time they say in a group, online, on the internet, Twitter, Facebook, whatever, it's just to make themselves look good. Think about it. That's all it is. They want to look better in the eyes of their people.
I would say maybe about 80 to 85% of the community knows this is a sham and a fraud. You know, I think they know this and understand this. I mean, I have literally brothers and companions inside of the community their kids are going to regular, normal school, public school. You know what I mean? They're not paying a single dime into the community no more. People already know what's going on. At this point, in my opinion, I believe this is just about greed from the higher ups and pride and ego from the lowers. They won't, and they just cannot admit and cannot just take this L. We're all taking the L. We're all we all took a bite of the SHIT sandwich. Let's just be real. We all sipped the Kool-Aid, you know what I mean? Some of us spit it out. Then others wanted to act like it was some type of wine from the heavens or something like that. But the reality is...
It's even worse than that. It's like we all drank the Kool-Aid.
Right.
Some of us went and used the bathroom, but y'all are still holding on to that in pain.
Right.
Let it out. Let it go. Let it go and flush it.
There's no foundation. There's no
so
foundation for Noor and her regime. This is just the reality. It's going to crumble. Why is it going to crumble? Because God said it was not going to be successful.
Yes, and speaking of this, and speaking of that, think about this. They say for these people that say, Noor is not their leader, is not the leader, she's just whatever. Okay, forget about this. The word Murshid, okay, is, whether you want to use the technical definition, Sharia definition, let's just use the TMOA definition. And that is a spiritual guide. That's what they call their Murshid. She is, and you see the statuses, all these clout chasers, my Murshida. I can't help it. I have to see my Murshida's face every, I get happy when I see her and all this stuff. Okay. They literally, basically the leave Britney alone, you bastards, the person, the TMOA version of leave Britney alone, Joe. Anyway, if you don't know what that leave Britney alone, just Google it. You'll see it's hilarious. Anyway, the point is that if they say that she's not the leader, why are you calling her your Murshida? That actually means the spiritual guide, a female spiritual guide.
That's because they're ignorant of all these terms. They don't even know.
They don't know what it means at all.
They're ignorant of all these terms. They don't even know what it means.
But that's why I said even we can just stick to the TMOA definition of Murshid. They know what that means. I mean, unless they just thought that was Galani's name. They was like, that they thought his name was my Murshid, first name my, last name Murshid, or something like that. I don't know, but they can't be that stupid. I mean, they really have to believe that the Murshid means a spiritual guide. Well, so then, and they know these simple things, and then you put the female addition on it, Murshida, and they know that means female spiritual guide. They know that. They can't,
well, what's crazy, right? And it kind of ties into the ayat that we just mentioned, right? She's their spiritual guide. Like in this ayat, it talks about how they have no knowledge of these claims. Like if we put it in the context of TMOA, they have no knowledge of this seven sultan concept, right? All of us, when we were in it, we're just like, six sultan, whatever. Didn't know where it came from, whatever. Same thing in TMOA. I bet you, go right now, all you TMOA members, the experts of the seven sultan belief, you're looking at them right now. It's not even your Murshida. We would be able to answer more questions about your belief than your own spiritual guide. Yep. And that's what the law says. Like, they have no knowledge of it. Neither do their fathers. You have these elders, the founding fathers and mothers. They have no idea about this crap. We've been educating your whole Jamaat about the whole crux of TMOA belief. We've been doing it for years, educating you guys about it.
That's why they had to actually go and find William Reed and try to get him to find some evidence about it. I almost laughed out loud when Mike Russell was on, because he said when he was talking about getting sued, I was about to say, that just reminded me, the dude said he was gonna sue us.
We have been almost sued so many times on this show. Listen, it's not gonna ever happen. You guys are not scaring us. Not gonna cease and desist our show. Peg leg man's not gonna come deliver a letter to the school and stop us. But listen, none of that's gonna work. All right, you guys can try all you want to. It's not gonna happen. We're not scared of anyone. Like people, like come to the land and see us.
Simply put, them suing us is them suing themselves. They're digging their own grave. They already know that. That's why they're not going to do it.
Everything they do, and this kind of touches into more of like just some of the stuff that's been going on. If you have any questions, any of you guys put them in the chat. We're about to be wrapping up. But everything they've been doing, whether it's them on their social media, openly going on vacations, luxuriously spending your money, right? Building building her father a house over in Trinidad, a mansion, right? She's traveling, her son's traveling, all these different things. Everything they do is just going to further expose themselves. There's no right move they can make. The only right move they could make is what they're primarily doing is stop doing anything and just keep quiet.
Yep.
But now you see that they're going out to actual Muslim events in the Ummah and promoting like their school, which is like, people's like, how can you let them do this? No, go ahead. I want one person from the Ummah to go attend their classes.
Yep.
And what's going to happen? They're going to come back and say, these people are off it. And then now the Ummah's going to know that they're off it.
Especially if someone from the Muslim world attends the introduction to Sufi sciences. It was like, hold on. the heck is not going on here? This Sufi science class by Hubar Jelani. Like,
I'm about to say, fun fact about that, I actually drove by Lighthouse Academy today. It's right around the corner from me.
Okay.
You already know the building. Okay, they pulled over a double wide modular next to it, and they tried to do something there. They got a shed and like a double wide modular, and they tried to do something there. They didn't go
they got
in.
a building, and they pulled a trailer up to it.
Next to it, yeah. And shed.
That's very Jamaat, right?
Shed,
like,
and they aren't doing no work in there. And me Hussein talk regularly. Like, there is no way they're about to get that school up to code, up to current code. No way. Even if they had the it's going to cost exuberant amount of money to bring everything up to code.
They have no clue about how stuff like that costs. Yeah,
we just dealing with houses and we know how bad.
Yeah,
that building. Even if y'all had the $1 million+ it would cost to bring that up.
Maintenance.
Y'all ain't putting the dime. That's why y'all went and got a double wide, because that's y'all. So when I drive by, I just chuckle and laugh. I literally just chuckle and laugh.
Yep.
I mean, how Moy is that they got?
That's why they got trailer.
That's like when you say you can take the person out the hood, but you can't take the hood out of the person. It's like,
literally the truth. You're gonna go buy this big time building and pull a shed up in a double wide modular next to it. Y'all got modulars and sheds on your properties. So I understand. Y'all took the ghetto.
This is the essence of being burnt. For anyone who wants to know the exact definition, this is it. You went and pulled a double wide, a trailer, by your school, your big giant school building, instead of simply putting the money
into it.
You know what this reminds me of?
Yep.
You know how you see the dude on the bike driving down the street during tax season, got the big 60-inch TV, but he riding down the street on the bike.
That's
exactly what it reminds me of.
No,
who's that? I mean, why didn't they just, instead of, and they probably financed the double wide, they probably financed that joint, they probably put I don't know, 5% down, and now not only do they not have the money to actually fund and try to build up the school, but they probably behind already on the rent on that finance double wide. But still, why did
somebody else's name?
We're gonna do this for you guys. This is how hilariously retarded this whole situation is. We're actually going to drive by there one of these days and just simply take a video. We're going to take a video and then we're going to send it to you guys.
What do you guys make
on
of? Go ahead.
On the freaking IQU website, right? When they're talking about the college, when they're talking about what's going to happen when they have the campus, like it didn't mention the trailer. They talked about how they're going to have all these amenities inside of the school, a cafeteria, a soccer field, a basketball court.
Maybe they might make a trailer park. That actually might be their big brain idea.
They already have like 5 of those.
That could be some big brain right there.
They will pull another trailer up to that jump before any work is done inside. There'll be two double wides pulled up before that
be the land too.
Yeah, all you had to do was take that money. All you had to do was take that money for the shed and the double wide and start renovating one classroom in your building. You're investing in yourself. You're working against yourself. How are you going to start building additions and bringing things into the parking lot before you're dealing with the project at hand?
They probably have to tell someone else. Probably got from like a sister that
that's
her whole
us
life
purchasing a house that needs to get renovated.
Yep.
And then we go and buy a nice new fresh shed, pull it up next to the house. We ain't touched the house yet.
Right.
Pull up a whole bunch of nice things, get a nice garage over here.
Nice cars.
We ain't touch the house.
Accessories for no reason. Yep.
It's because we know why they did it.
along these lines, we know that, so we have all these properties as TMOA properties in the United States. We got Virginia, you got North Carolina, South Carolina, right? 2 in Virginia, you got New York, there's 2 in New York, there's 1 in Pennsylvania, they're all over the place, right? So their leader, Noor, is looking to buy her own property in Virginia. So how much of a slap in the face is it that your leader comes over from Pakistan and is like, yeah, I ain't living with y'all.
Yeah,
I'm getting my own land. Like you guys really gotta wake up.
She gotta raise money for it too, guaranteed. She was gonna have a launch good, fund the land by Sheikha Zaida Noor Gilani, all right, and none of you can come.
Not only that,
special people are gonna be able to go there. Only special higher up are gonna be able to like get plots of land. They're gonna pay for it all. But if she was really y'all leader, if she really actually loved y'all, cared about y'all, even identified with y'all, she would want to move where y'all, she'd want to be with her people, right? But like, I was even thinking, go ahead.
I was about to say, not only would she want to be with her people, that's going to be a strong message to the community. If she actually moved onto the land and then beautified the land. I mean, the last time we checked, it's still dilapidated trailers, it's still extension cords running here and there.
Yeah.
Grass won't be cut. You know what I mean? The masjid it might be over for the masjid. You know what I mean? So
I should go over for a while. Who's like,
I'm serious. Why not take some of this money? I mean, it just makes you can tell they're dysfunctional. They're dysfunctional. They don't know what they're doing. They don't care. And again, you're moving away from a land that you quote unquote own. Make that make sense.
They don't like it there, obviously. Listen, I can tell you that when Noor was going on her tour, she was like, okay, if I happen to come to America and live here, where would I stay on one of these lands? And she was like, no. All you suck. You know what?
I stay in hotels.
Yeah,
staying right in hotels.
With all those extravagant trips they were going on, there's no way she's going to reside at a place like that.
Yeah. I'm seeing the trailer of someone's house. Yeah, no, I'm good.
You know what? I was listening to their little video earlier, trying to like brush up on what was said, and I had this thought when Noor, when they had that meeting, right? When she was like, "What do you guys want? What are we gonna do?" Like they had that meeting, and I was like, "It's interesting how they had a meeting with all these people, Sheikh Jelani's kids, right? Widows and all that," and I was like, "Not one of those people. All that money came from the community, but not one of those people consider themselves part of the community."
I don't know.
None of them pay percent. None of them consider themselves like subject to like any of the laws, rules, regulations, right? But they're here making decisions off of everything that literally you, your fathers, your grandfathers sacrificed their lives for. They got rich off of, and now they're living off the fruits of labor with no investment whatsoever. And y'all back here in the United States.
I was about to say, and not one of them said, how about we take some of this money and put it back into the communities and get everything, bring the infrastructure up, bring up the schools, what they got, a sparrow, owls, white hawk, or some school with some type of bird, ostrich or something like that. Yeah, I think got some school, named after a bird. Well, take these schools, these alleged schools, which are really just trailers and stuff like that and dilapidated buildings. Take this stuff and build this stuff up. I remember when we were being told that the end of the world, let's just keep it real. They've been running that same script for a long time. Everything was going to come to a head when the masjid in New York finally got completed. So I'm listening to this story like, when the masjid in New York finally gets completed, it's when everything is going to unravel and it's going to be these signs of the last days and blah, blah, blah. I'm looking at the masjid and I'm thinking in my mind, remember, we come from a construction background. I'm thinking in my mind, that's like a year of mess if everybody just picked up a hammer. If everybody just picked up a hammer and some nails and put a little hard hat on and went to town on the masjid in New York, 6 months to a year, it would have been completed. But we were being told that this was going to be a big, big sign. No, it's just a sign of y'all being burnt and lazy. That's it. That masjid could have been done. Like,
We could have went up there and knocked that out in literally a couple weeks.
Yeah,
I was being generous, Mo. I was trying to be generous. But come on,
no, who's piggybacking off of what you said? I was told in a video I did that apparently I haven't been to the lands in a long time because apparently they have $300,000 houses on the land nowadays, and they have expensive cars on the land. All this stuff, the roads are fixed now. So I was like, maybe I'm out of touch because this guy was so adamant. Tariq Shaheed was like, he's got a clue. Where have you been, Afi? So clearly, maybe I've been mistaken. I haven't been, to Virginia land in a while, but I can assure you.
He's talking about Virginia land. I've been New York land, but I mean Virginia land. Yeah, I mean they might have a couple new double wides.
Okay, $300,000 house though. Listen, no, I don't know what trails you got, Aki.
And trust me, that is not a new road.
In New York,
I've heard there's not a new road.
I've heard some people in New York have some, I guess, nicer modular homes that they've pulled up there or whatever. I don't know how much they cost, whatever. It doesn't really matter.
Broken down.
You live on the land. I mean, like, well, how much can a house be worth when you build it on a dumpster? Like,
it's like
as soon as they brought that joint to the land, and as soon as whoever pulled it up there left, that joint depreciated. That joint depreciated by 50%.
Yeah, I was thinking exactly. Like that's like that.
It's like how you drive a new car off the lot. As soon as you drive it off the lot, that's it. It ain't worth
that joint was 100. That joint was 100K when they bought it. As soon as the dude pulled off, it was 35 grand.
Like the freaking listen. In my era, bro, the dudes used to have like a tank top on. No, they hadn't ate all my. They had on a Gucci belt, and they had their tank top tucked in. They tried to show it. No, like bro, you broke. I know you broke. You spent all your money on that belt as Nikes. Like you.
On the real, for these people that are going into debt, because you're not paying cash for these modular homes or double wides or whatever. You're going into debt, invest all this money into something really you actually do not even own, and you can't turn over to people, you can't leave to your family. It is literally the worst investment you could possibly make. Because I know some of y'all, especially at this point, I know some of y'all are like, yo, this is a bunch of bull crap. But I just went $350,000 in debt and moved the house on the land, and I ain't got nowhere to go. And you just stuck you and your family for however long off that dumb move.
And they can take it from you whenever they feel like it. Snap of a finger. Whenever they feel like it. Literally. But let me touch on just two quick things before Mubarak closes this out. I want to go back to the sibling quarrel that they're having over the cattle. And y'all big on this Ahli Bait thing, and they're Ahli Bait and this and that and that. Y'all gotta think for a second. Now that y'all see they're having a sibling battle, it's Ahli Bait versus Ahli Bait. If y'all consider Noor Ahli Bait, which she's not, she's just a widow. She's just a woman now. If you're on her side, you're going against your own beliefs because you're going on her side when she's not even Ahli Bait. She's going against Fafa and them who are Ahli Bait. So you're going against your belief. If she is Ahli Bait, or you can use the Murphy Sultan's on her side, he's Ahli Bait, they're still going against Ahli Bait. No matter what side you choose, you're going against your own belief. Period. So what y'all going to do? You got to make a choice. And the side is neither of them. I'm giving y'all the answer. The side is neither of them. But you are going to choose a side and think you're killing it. But either side makes you look foolish. The only decision you have to do is not be a part of the circus. It's either you want this clown, these rainbow colors, or this clown nose and these clown shoes and those rainbow colors. No, it don't work like that. It don't work like that at all. And I just want to talk to the people real quick, a quick message to the people that are still in the cult or thinking about, they're deep in this, is where you're deep in it. You're an alleged diehard, you're on the fence, where you're not really dealing with it, you're just stuck in it. It's 2023. Like, seriously, like the things that just stop. Just stop. Because I've had so many different people saying they got showed so many signs, and for them to do this and do that and leave, they'll have to deny their reality and all this stuff. But honestly, denying your reality, that's not a problem at all. Because how many people live in their own realities that aren't actual reality? You have to deny your reality to go through the actual reality. So really question yourself. Question your reality. I can have my truth But your truth is different from the truth. Seek the truth. Okay? Because everybody is in an alternate reality. Once you have this attachment, they had a psychological attachment and everything. He had attachments to their heart. He has this hold on them, even from the grave. He has this hold on them. Y'all have to break this hold by questioning your reality, because your reality isn't haq. Your reality is not truth. Go and try to find the reality, which you can do. Going back real quick to the Surah Al-Kahf, the one thing I got from you reading those ayats in Surah Al-Kahf, one word popped in my mind. Tawheed, Tawheed, Tawheed. If you were firm upon that, you wouldn't be in this belief at all. Tawheed. Forget all that breaking up into all these particles and sparks and spinning, doing all, and all these people. No, Tawheed. Allah's absolute oneness. Start there, and they'll do numbers for you. That's going to take you anywhere you need to be. And that's not my words. That's going to take you anywhere you need to be. That oneness of Allah. Having that belief will get you where you need to be. But that's all I have to say.
And I'm going to say just real quick, just to stir or swat the hornet's nest. I don't know how many people know or knew, but I was having a situation with my family as well. And I'm very, very pleased and humbled to say now that my wife is completely off the Kool-Aid, like 100%. And we've had a lot of extensive conversations, he and I, and just we talked it out like adults, and we made sure that we came to an understanding, came to a common ground, and I'm very, very pleased to say that. So, whoever knows who my wife is, yes, she's not rocking with none of this foolishness, not any of it, and just humble. I'm taking that W.
A win is a win. A win's a win.
Real quick, I think I got one question I seen in the chat that we definitely got to address, because it kind of plays into this cult mindset, and it's a big trick of Shaitan. So Gotti Pacino said, "Keep it a bean. The money thing has truth to it, but y'all can't tell me throughout the years y'all didn't learn anything from Shaji."
Sorry.
No.
So any one of y'all can take a stab at that.
No.
I mean, from him, no.
From
I
him.
can tell you right now, I didn't learn nothing from him. Not one thing. Nothing.
Let me, obviously I didn't learn anything from him, all right, but I can say that my mother, who spent more time with him than probably anyone, she will tell you I didn't learn a damn thing from him. All right. Only thing she learned how to do was like make a roti, which she didn't learn from him. So she definitely didn't learn anything from him at all. So Gotti Pacino, whatever your name is, Pacino, listen, no.
This one is free, so we're all taking a stab at this.
Oh yeah.
Let's just go with what he said. Let's say we learned something from him. I mean, what point are you making? What relevance is that? Okay, I can learn something from this criminal over here. What is that supposed to mean? Does that
He's still a criminal?
He's still a criminal. So okay, so we learned something. We went to the retreats and we learned brotherhood. Let's go with that, because I can go with that and say, okay, we learned some brotherhood and blah blah blah. Is there anything else, sir?
I mean, that's the equivalent. That's the equivalent of like somebody saying, "Yo," a girl saying, "Yo, my soccer coach, he touched me inappropriately," and you're like, "All right, maybe he touched you, but didn't he take you back and forth to practice?"
Right. Win a championship.
So let me answer from someone who probably anybody watching or whatever has studied Mubarak Jelani's teachings more than anybody, right? I'm up there with anybody that you can say, oh, so if anybody learned anything from him, it would be someone that studied as much as I studied, right? So I can tell you straight up that I've learned stuff from his discourses, but the stuff I learned was not from Mubarak Jelani. It was from the books that he was reading. So I can't say I learned that from Mubarak Jelani because he was reading. I go back and read the books, but I did learn a lot. And what I did learn from Mubarak Jelani was the stuff that I shouldn't be doing. Because once you couple that with learning true Islam, like, oh, he was teaching shirk. Oh,
Yep.
he was doing witchcraft. Oh, he was doing bid'ah. Oh, he was. So I did learn less. So I have a lot of practical examples of what not to do in Islam and what things are wrong in Islam from him. That's what I've learned. Now, if you want to say you've learned, like Mubarak said, you learned XYZ from him. Okay, that's your reality. Just like someone answered perfectly in the comments. People learn from Elijah Muhammad, but we weigh what you actually got from the person. So if someone's saying, hey, I'm going to teach you how to, like say, kick a soccer ball, but I'm going to rape you in the locker room. Are you going to, oh, well, I learned how to kick that soccer ball. Let's ignore all the rest of it. So whatever way you put it, the bad vastly outweighs any good that you get from Mubarak Jelani, the Jamaat, or anything else that's tied to it. It totally eclipses it. You might, if you went down and did like they tell you, like a decision list, take 2 pieces of paper or a piece of paper, fold it in half, put good, put bad. And y'all tell me way people can do this. Start writing down all the good that you got from Mubarak Jelani and the Jamaat. Then start writing down all the bad. You will need another piece of paper for the bad, and you won't even fill up the first half of the paper for the good. Trust me.
Right, which simplifies it for me. I simply unlearned way more than I learned from him. Simply put.
100%.
That's a good way to put it.
Literally.
And start with the weak sauce questions and stuff like that. I mean, you guys, come on now. What type of question was that anyway? I mean, come with something a little bit more intellectually stimulating so that we can kind of, address it and tackle it. Why?
Yeah.
I mean, like who are you kidding? That's like, okay, you punch me in the face, but when I hit the ground, you turn me so that when I was having a seizure, I wouldn't like also beat my face up on the cement. I cushioned you. I turned you so you could breathe. I held your tongue down so you wouldn't bite your tongue. What the man did was literally abuse people for decades. I mean, like, how are you even mentioning like, oh, we learned something? Who cares about that?
What? I got a challenge for this Gotti Mock, whatever, Pacino, whatever his name is, right? Contact me, right? I'll challenge you. I won't reveal your identity or anything. I want you to tell me what you learned from Mubarak Jelani.
Yes.
And I will tell you how you actually didn't learn anything from him. That's my challenge to you. Contact me, 607-624-8100. WhatsApp, text, whatever. That's my challenge to you. I won't reveal your identity, but that's the challenge. Tell me what you learned from him. And you're going to say, oh, I learned to dab, or I learned about how to love Ahlul Bayt and Rasul Sallallahu, even though, as Mo said, I'm watching them all fight each other and kill each other.
Learned about
he learned. I'm gonna tell you what he learned. He learned exactly how to calculate exactly 10% of his check. He knows it to a T. He can do the math in his head now.
I know exactly how much to give every 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm being scammed. This much amount.
What was that? A burner account name? Was that a burner account name? What's his name? Gotti Pistachio?
It's always a burner account. Listen, every single one of the people that actually comment be trolls. They're literally always scared.
Grow up.
Yeah.
I'm over them.
And like, what do you think you're gonna accomplish here, buddy? You think you're gonna come in here and just say something stupid? Like, oh, I'm gonna get to this one. Like,
they want that rush. They want that sugar rush off the Kool-Aid.
I mean, to be fair, can we get some more competitive questions? Like, honestly, if you're going to come into the comment section, think of something
one brave person, right? We grew up with all these people that are supposedly these gangsters, soldiers, right? SOA, all these guys that put on this bravado, put their chest out. Can y'all provide one brave person with just a little bit of courage?
Nope.
Even with Dasa, like anybody that could just say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna have a conversation with y'all.
We even had the boy who was like threatening that, oh, if you see, well, I will send you back to Allah, whatever he was saying. I mean, it's like, all right, it literally, first of all, it's harder to fight someone, and it's dangerous. You might get killed, or you might kill someone. You might go to jail for assault, or you might get, I mean, there's all types of things. literally to do this type of fighting. I mean, and you can feel like you fought. I mean, you would go back to your people as like a hero. Yeah, I got win on R2F and I showed them, I told them exactly everything, blah, blah, blah. I mean, literally, you just pick up your phone, you hit a few buttons, and like magic, you can be right face to face, just like Mike Russell. Just like Mike Russell. You take a few buttons and you can literally be on the screen right here. You could be saying all your good, great points. Oh yeah, this is what I would tell them, and this is what I would tell them.
Right here,
R2F dudes. You can literally say all that stuff. We will sit, listen, watch, learn, whatever the case may be. Ask you if you're finished, and then, well.
Can't guarantee what happens after.
we can't make any promises.
Respectfully, just like how we Zabiha, respectfully, we won't show you the knife.
Right.
But you know what? If you no, I tell you what, if they actually come with some real facts, some real points, some real proof, evidence, Quran, Hadith, a respectable scholar, not some fairy tale dude, anything, we will literally give you your flowers on the show. We'll tell you, you know what? That is excellent. You proved us wrong by some Quran and Sunnah. We are now going to rejoin TMOA because we've seen the light. We've seen the proof. They proved it, and we're gonna get after it in that way. But we're not gonna hold our breath.
Guys. Let's wrap up.
Yeah, we're not gonna hold our breath. But the invitation.
You know how you're in a cult. If you're afraid to have a conversation about your beliefs, you might be in a cult.
Absolutely.
And you don't believe in what you allege believe in.
All right, Mubarak, on you, Sheikh.
Okay, so I actually got just 3 ayahs from the Surah Al-Kahf of what we were talking about, just to address a couple things. And that is number 1, from ayah number 6, 7, and 8, in which Allah says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فلعلك باخع نفسك على آثارهم إن لم يؤمنوا بهذا الحديث أسفا. That perhaps you would kill yourself over grief over them. That, basically Allah is saying that don't worry yourself to death over, them believing in the message or not. And so even though some people are saying, well, what's up with these guys about the message that they give up, they stop doing shows or whatever, ain't got nothing to do with that. This is basically, we're embodying this ayah right here. We ain't worrying ourselves to death over whether you accept the message or listen to the Quran, the Sunnah, and the information that's being given to you. We delivered the information with the help of Allah. If you hear it, like hundreds of people have heard and said, you know what, I'm off the juice. They left. Alhamdulillah was saying just gave us some good information that his family is even leaving this thing. So basically, we deliver the information, and we're not worrying about it night and day over whether or not you accept it or not. So that's one thing. Allah is telling Rasulullah, don't worry yourself to death over it. Deliver the message, and that's all you need to do. And that's what we're doing, trying to follow in the footsteps of Rasulullah. Deliver the message, and then we got our own lives and businesses and families and stuff to take care of, and that's what we're doing. But Allah goes on to say in ayah number 7 and 8 that He made everything on the earth as an adornment and beautified it and all, so that He can test you in these things. And that at the end of the day, in ayah number 8, is that Allah is going to make it bearing ground. Basically, everything here that you're trying to hold on to, whether it's your clout, your pride, your homes, your community, or whatever it might be, all of it is going to be for naught. None of it is going to last. None of it will remain, except for, none of it's going to remain. The only thing that's going to benefit you is, number 1, what did you believe, and was it the correct belief about Allah? And then, based on that belief, did you do the actions that would be accepted by Allah based on that belief? Everything else is going to be wasted. So let's keep that in mind. We will from here, we'll just recite from the first 10 ayats, and then we will go, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي أنزل على عبده الكتاب ولم يجعل له عوجا قيما لينذر بأسا شديدا من لدنه ويبشر المؤمنين ويبشر المؤمنين الذين يعملون الصالحات أن لهم أجرا حسنا ماكثين فيه أبدا وينذر الذين قالوا اتخذ الله ولدا ما لهم به من علم ولا لآبائهم كبرت كلمة تخرج من أفواههم إن يقولون إلا كذبا فلعلك باخع نفسك على آثارهم إن لم يؤمنوا بهذا الحديث أسفا إنا جعلنا على ما على الأرض زينة لها لنبلوهم أيهم أحسن عملا وإنا لجاعلون ما عليها صعيدا جرزا أم حسبت أن أصحاب الكهف والرقيم كانوا من آياتنا عجبا إذ أوى الفتية إلى الكهف فقالوا ربنا آتنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا فضربنا على آذانهم في الكهف سنين عددا ثم بعثناهم لنعلم أي الحزبين أحصى لما لبثوا أمدا نحن نقص عليك نبأهم بالحق إنهم فتية آمنوا بربهم وزدناهم هدى وربطنا على قلوبهم إذ قاموا فقالوا ربنا رب السماوات والأرض لن ندعو من دونه إلها لقد قلنا إذا شططا هؤلاء قوم اتخذوا من دونه آلهة لولا يأتون عليهم بسلطان بين فمن أظلم ممن افترى على الله كذبا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام.